Chapter 266. In Chang'an City, near Anhuimen, the reclining square was a lot more deserted. It was basically a place for retired veterans to enjoy their old age. The premise was that they had to have their own house in Chang'an City. If they didn't have a house, they would be arranged to stay in Reclining Square. Hence, the name Reclining Square came about. In the past, it wasn't called Reclining Square. It was called Performing Arts Square. As many veterans stayed there, people jokingly called it Reclining Square, a good place to wait for euthanasia. To the west of Xia Reclining Square, near the Qingming Canal, was the mansion of Navy Admiral Zhang Liang. To the side of the mansion was the Qingming Canal. On the shore, there were magnificent buildings. There were docks, small boats, as well as water equipment used for training. In the filthy river, where piles of feces floated down, it seemed so. What was it? On the other side, a large group of dark-skinned, muscular men with tanned skin as if they had been smeared with tung oil were following behind each other. A group of middle-aged men, who looked like teachers, had their hands behind their backs and were holding large bamboo poles in their hands. They squinted their eyes and stared at the surface of the water. On the other side, a man was leisurely chanting the number. Many times, even though he had already said 10, he seemed to be suffering from Alzheimer's. The next word he shouted would become 2. Who the F***CK was 2? However, all the dark-skinned men stuck their butts out and buried their heads deep in the water. They didn't dare to poke their heads out. At this time, if any unlucky man dared to poke his head out, what awaited him would be fried meat with bamboo poles in the hands of the veterans. At the highest point of the training ground, Zhang Liang stroked his white beard and squinted his eyes at the butts sticking out of the water. He couldn't help but nod. Not bad. Not bad. The quality of this year's batch is not bad. Old Lin. You've done well. When the salary from the Ministry of Works arrives, I'll reward you with 10 taels of silver. Beside Zhang Liang, a man with a mustache and a face full of pockmarks quickly bowed and said, "Thank you, Commander." Zhang Liang waved his hand. "Since you've already retired, you can just call me Old Master in the future. Do you think I won't dare to talk about this Commander-in-Chief outside?" Hearing this, Elder Lin hurriedly knelt on the ground, his body trembling with excitement. In this general's heart, you are still the Commander-in-Chief. It's always one for life. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. Zhang Liang helped Old Lin up with great relief. However, at this moment, a nimble servant hurriedly climbed up the 30 zhang high platform and hurriedly reported, "Governor, Duke Zheng is here." Zhang Liang's eyes flashed. He waved his hand and asked, "What's the matter?" "I don't know, but I saw that Lord Protector Zheng had His Majesty's Imperial Edict in his hand and was on his way to the drill ground. That's why I thought it was suspicious and came to report to you in advance." Imperial Edict? Wei Zheng actually came in person. What did he come here for? Zhang Liang was puzzled. The Imperial Edict was usually read by someone from the Department of Internal Servants, and he hadn't received an Imperial Edict for many years. What was the Emperor's intention this time? Of course, Zhang Liang knew what had happened in Chang'an City, but the Emperor had come to him at this time. What was the meaning of this? He couldn't see through it. He waved his hand and said, "Send the message. Everyone stop training and wait for the Imperial Edict." Yes. Although he didn't know why. Since the Emperor had issued an Imperial Edict, as an official, he had to accept it. Otherwise, he would be disobeying the Imperial Edict. Moreover, the strange thing was that this time, Wei Zheng didn't read the Imperial Edict in the mansion but came to the drill ground. Could it be, did the Emperor know that there were veterans in his mansion? But His Majesty knew about this. Although he didn't know the exact number, he didn't hide it. Strange. All of this was very strange. When Zhang Liang came to the drill ground, a group of greasy black men were standing in line, panting. Wei Zheng's voice sounded not far away. "Brother Zhang. Long time no see." Zhang Liang hurriedly cupped his fists when he heard that. "Prime Minister Wei." I wonder what brings you here today. We haven't seen each other for almost half a year. Let's go to the mansion and have a drink. Wei Zheng, who was wearing a red robe, sighed. Let's wait for the next time. This time, I'm here to read the imperial edict of the emperor. Brother Zhang, shall we accept the imperial edict? Okay. Zhang Liang cupped his fists. Then, the eunuch from the Minister of Internal Affairs behind Wei Zheng screamed, "The imperial edict is here. Zhang Liang, accept the imperial edict." All kneel. Whoosh. Whoosh. In an instant, the swarthy men all knelt down in unison. Even Wei Zheng was a little shocked. Are these all the soldiers of the Tang dynasty? But his eyes flashed. Wei Zheng's expression suddenly changed. He read the imperial edict. By the will of the heavens, the emperor says. Today, I learned that Minister Zhang has 3,000 retired soldiers. This is my mistake. I forgot that you have made great contributions to the Tang dynasty. Zhang Liang's expression changed. The expressions of all the Marines present, especially those veterans, changed greatly. There were even some old soldiers who were trembling all over at this moment. The emperor didn't forget us. But at this moment, Wei Zheng's voice sounded again. I intend to set up a navy mansion in Chang'an. Today, I have a request for all of you. Tomorrow morning, clear out 8 rivers that can carry ships. If you complete the task, I will appoint the person you choose as the steward of the navy mansion. From now on, he will be responsible for managing the 8 dragon veins in Chang'an. Hearing that, a mouthful of blood spurted out of Zhang Liang's mouth, and he completely fainted. Chapter 267. Wei Zheng sighed after announcing the imperial edict. Someone, summon the imperial physician. Quick. Send Governor Zhang back to his residence and take good care of him. Wei Zheng knew that this would happen today. If it weren't for this incident and the emperor's desire to clean up the 8 rivers, Zhang Liang's actions would have led to his demise. Now, Zhang Liang fainted, which was the best outcome. The emperor had only transferred all the navy veterans around him. Otherwise, if this incident were to spread to the ears of other officials, the imperial edict he was waiting for today would not be just this. It would be a crime of rebellion. The emperor allowed all the generals of the Tang dynasty to have private soldiers, but the number could only be controlled at 500. If the number exceeded this number, a light punishment would be a punishment, and a heavy punishment would be a crime. Zhang Liang taking in this group of veterans seemed to be a kind act, but when combined with his recruitment of new soldiers in Chang'an and the 3,000 veterans, how terrifying was this? If he had the slightest bit of disloyalty, he only needed to wave his hand gently, and all the waterways around Chang'an, along the Chao River, would go straight to Taiji Palace. How terrifying was this? Would the emperor allow this? Would the officials allow this, especially when the veterans who were good at swimming were sleeping soundly beside the bed? No. Absolutely not. That was why Wei Zheng sighed when he saw Zhang Liang vomiting blood and fainting. When Qing Yaojin mentioned this incident, he had already seen the killing intent in the emperor's eyes. However, because of the current situation, the emperor did not say anything. However, there was no guarantee that the emperor would not settle accounts after this. Hopefully, Governor Zhang could understand the emperor's difficulties. Wei Zheng watched Zhang Liang leave before he continued, and Lufang. What an excellent and Lufang. Before coming here, the old man did not know that this place had been renamed in Lufang. He also saw the situation here with his own eyes. The old and the weak who retired from the years of war, the imperial court neglected you. This is our fault. Wei Zheng sighed deeply and then bowed deeply in front of the frightened eyes of all the soldiers. Prime Minister Wei. Prime Minister Wei is actually bowing to us bumpkins. Everyone had tears in their eyes. Someone even knelt on the ground with a choked voice. Prime Minister Wei, you mustn't. Prime Minister Wei, you mustn't. We're all bumpkins with no status. You're torturing us by doing this. Minister Wei. Wei Zheng waved his hand. He gestured for everyone to rise. However, everyone still refused to get up no matter what. Wei Jing could only sigh and say, "This bow is this official returning justice to all of you on behalf of the people of the world. This is your honor. This is the glory you've earned as soldiers. If you hadn't sacrificed your lives to protect the Tang dynasty and shed your blood for the founding of the Tang dynasty, how could the Tang dynasty flourish now? This official only wants to say one thing: His Majesty has not forgotten you. The people of the world have not forgotten you." Wei Zheng's voice was choking. As for the soldiers present, they all started to cry. Once upon a time, they had dreamed that one day, they would be recognized. But after the war ended, when they returned to their homes, they discovered that there was nothing left. Their relatives, neighbors, playmates that they had grown up with, and so on, were all gone. They had knelt in their homeland and cried bitterly. They had been lost and did not even know where to go. However, at that moment, the commander-in-chief had given them a home. A home that could not be considered a home. It had been a few years, but the former emperor had not promised them a reward in Chang'an City. They had given up because they also knew that the Tang dynasty had just been established and needed an opportunity to develop. They had waited for a few years. Today, the emperor finally remembered them. How could they not be excited? Moreover, he had even set up a navy residence in Chang'an for them. What was that? That was an honor bestowed upon them by the emperor. It was a department set up by the emperor himself, and it was dedicated solely to the emperor. At that moment, they suddenly felt that their backs were straightened. They were no longer wandering ghosts. At that moment, they finally found the right to walk freely in their neighborhood and on Chang'an Street with an identity tag hanging on their waists. They were also people with an organization and status. Everyone wept bitterly once again. Even the cries here attracted the old and weak soldiers who were waiting to die in the reclining square. After they heard this news, their originally numb eyes suddenly shone with a light of excitement once again. We found our goal. The emperor has not forgotten us. The Tang dynasty has not forgotten us. Wei Zheng looked at the vast expanse of dark, tower-like men who were suffering under the scorching sun like children. He also choked with sobs. Those were the soldiers who had once exchanged their lives for the peace of the world. Wei Zheng had an impulse many times. He really wanted to grab those people in the court who opposed the soldiers and see if they could still be in the court peacefully if it were not for those bumpkin soldiers. Wei Zheng sighed deeply. The imperial censor and the eunuchs of the Minister of Internal Affairs behind him also fell silent. They lowered their heads and hurriedly recorded everything they saw. After a while, when the cries and venting voices had subsided a little, Wei Zheng shouted loudly, "The emperor has not forgotten the brothers who fought with him to build the Tang dynasty. It's just that the Tang dynasty has encountered some troubles now, and the emperor has no time to care about you. But now, your opportunity has come. Now, you all know what happened in Chang'an City, right? It's a trap. This is a test given by God to the Tang dynasty. Therefore, the emperor needs the brothers who fought with him in the past." Everyone was jealous. They roared at the top of their lungs, "I'm willing to climb the mountain of swords again for the emperor and die 1,000 times for him." "Good." Wei Jing nodded and pointed to the stinky river beside them. "This is your new battlefield. His Majesty wants all of you to clean up these 8 rivers before dawn tomorrow. Can you do it?" "Yes. Even if we have to pay with our lives, we will make the water in these 8 rivers clear before dawn tomorrow." "Good. Then, let's go. The emperor is waiting for your new battle report in Taiji Palace." "Yes, sir." Chapter 268. Everyone, the Marines, the veterans watching from the shore, and the soldiers who were missing arms and legs, without waiting for anyone to give the order, jumped into the water with a splash. They used their hands or tools to clean up the muddy, stinky water with all their might. At the beginning, only tens of thousands of soldiers were doing it. But as the battle dragged on, the people of Chang'an were alarmed. After hearing Wei Zheng's words, he couldn't sit still anymore. The emperor was in danger. That was also the crisis of Chang'an city. At this time, the emperor even asked Prime Minister Wei to bow in order to lift the blockade of Chang'an city. How could their status be higher than Prime Minister Wei's? What was Prime Minister Wei? He was the emperor's official. He bowed to these bumpkins and even the slaves. In other words, Prime Minister Wei represented the emperor and bowed to all the bumpkins in the world. The men of the Tang dynasty were very simple. They were also very emotional. Although this was only said to the veterans, who were these veterans? They were all people just like them. Some of them were even missing arms and legs. They were more healthy than these people, right? If the emperor could jump into the smelly ditch where they washed their urinals, clothes, and vegetables to clean up the muddy water for them, how could they sit still? Unless his skin was thicker than the city walls. Therefore, on all the streets, groups of old men with crutches were beating gongs to spread the news. As long as they were not bedridden, they should King go to the river to clean up the muddy water for Lao Tzu. Who would not go? Fine. Get out of Chang'an. Because they did not deserve to be called Chang'an people. The people of Chang'an were all King cowards. Why did the emperor do this? Was it not to let the people live a more comfortable life? If the river was cleaned up, everything would be better, right? At the very least, they could wash the chamber pots. No, in such a clean river, who the *ck dared to wash the chamber pots? Lao Tzu would be the first to tear him apart. The men of Guangzhou were so stubborn. When they said that they were going to clean up the muddy water in front of their own homes, who the *ck could sit still? She was so embarrassed that she panicked. Then, from old men in their 80s to children in their 20s or 13 years old, they all carried it on their shoulders. Then, carrying the basket, he jumped into the river and joined the ranks of those who were cleaning the river. The army in charge of clearing the river started from around 5 p.m. to around sunset. The number of people involved in clearing the river had increased from the initial tens of thousands to more than 100,000. In the end, even if no one reminded them, the merchants could no longer sit still. How embarrassing. The commoners had all gone to clean up the river. Even if they shouted themselves hoarse, no one came to look at their goods. They were even met with disdainful looks from the commoners. Could they sit still? They had poured more feces and urine into the river than the commoners, right? He was cleaning up after them. Aren't they ashamed? Even the ancestors of the family couldn't sit still, so this broom ran out and pointed at their noses, scolding them until their parents panicked. As a matter of fact, all the merchants were urging their servants to jump into the smelly ditch to dig out the feces themselves. In the setting sun, Li Shimin stood in the attic of the third floor of the sleeping palace. He looked at the rivers in the setting sun that were originally dazzling like silver ribbons. At this time, they had become pitch black. The veins on the back of his hand that was holding the railing were exposed. Guanin's servant, do you think these 8 rivers can really solve this crisis? Li Shimin muttered to Zhangsun Wugo, who was also looking into the distance behind him. Zhangsun Wugo pursed her lips and grabbed Li Shimin's hand. She said softly, "Second brother, actually you already have the answer in your heart, right?" The answer? Li Shimin lowered his gaze and looked silently at that slender hand. At this time, there was still a thimble on her hand. Suddenly, Li Shimin remembered that the shoes he had been wearing this year, as well as the shoes worn by the crown prince and the other princes, were all made by his empress. The palace was not so poor that they could not even afford to wear shoes. However, in order to save money, Empress Zhangsun still insisted on sewing and making shoes by herself. Li Shimin suddenly felt very tired. He felt ashamed to face Zhangsun Wugo. In these 2 years, he had been dealing with one problem after another, but he had neglected the person by his side. He was not a qualified husband. As for whether he was a qualified monarch or not, he was a little confused at this time. Since the Wei River alliance half a year ago, he had been dispirited. He was at a loss when the court was full of impeachment. It was not until the appearance of Zhang Feng that he found a glimmer of light to revive the Tang dynasty. But, when he was in a hurry to prepare for a big fight, he turned his head and found that there was still a sharp blade hanging over his head. 5 surnames and 7 hopes. This fierce tiger that made him afraid finally showed its ferocious teeth this time. He was very afraid. He was very afraid that everything he had done would be turned into ashes with a wave of the 5 surnames and 7 hopes. Alas! Li Shimin sighed deeply. Rubbing Zhang Sun Wugo's hand, he looked at the red sunset and murmured, "How could I not want to have the answer in my heart?" Chapter 269. Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. Guzi, Zhu Zi, and the others who liked to surround him, as well as old He and the others, had all disappeared. Just as he was taking an afternoon nap under the crooked tree, the people on the street seemed to have suddenly disappeared without a trace. What was going on? Where were they? Zhang Feng stood at the entrance of the empty market, grabbing his hair and looking at the empty street with a dumbfounded expression. He was completely dumbfounded. What the hell, could it be that Lao Tzu was sleepwalking? Or was it a dream? Zhang Feng was really dumbfounded. Even the old scholar who had been squatting under the big willow tree at the entrance of the street, which was big enough for 3 adults to surround, was nowhere to be seen. Other than a dream, was there any other explanation? Quick! You motherf asterisk cur, other people are cleaning the river, but you motherf asterisk cur, hiding in the house and sleeping in the middle of the day? Aren't you ashamed? Your father. He's 72 years old, and he's already carrying a hoe into the river. You, a strong young man, are hiding in the house and sleeping? No, sir, please do me a favor. I still have to work at night. I just got off work today. Just let me sleep for a while. Sleep? Why don't you sleep yourself to death? What time is it now? You motherf asterisk cur, it's almost 9 o'clock. Quick, don't talk nonsense, 2 hours is enough for you to clean up the river's feces. Amidst the waves of cursing and begging, Zhang Feng stared at an old man in the market, who was pulling the night watchman's ear and walking over. Zhang Feng hurriedly went forward, clasped his hands and asked, "Sir, you said you were going to clean the river? These people are going to clean the river?" When the old man saw that it was Zhang Feng, he put away the anger on his face and grinned, "Well, it's because we've dirted the river, so the emperor sent those old and weak soldiers to clean the river. How could we stand by and watch? It's so embarrassing." So, we all spontaneously joined in. "You rest, I'm going." Zhang Feng usually taught those little brats how to read. This already shocked everyone. As slaves, how could they afford to hire a teacher? Moreover, it was Sir who took the initiative to teach their child. There must be smoke rising from their ancestral graves. In addition, Zhang Feng was usually generous and generous. Basically, every family had received his kindness, so they would not allow Zhang Feng to go to such a matter. Even if Zhang Feng went, he would definitely be carried back in a matter of minutes. Who was Zhang Feng? That was the best person in the entire city. Moreover, he was a peerless talent. Who would dare to ask him to wash sand in the river? If anyone dared to do so, there would be a group of red-eyed people who would go up and break their legs. Zhang Feng was very depressed. But he was also very curious. This Lao Li's speed was really fast. How long had it been? 6 hours? Or 4 hours? How could he encourage so many people to take the initiative to wash the river? Zhang Feng did not believe in heresy. He paced around the crowd and quietly followed them to the Dragon Head West Canal, which was near the Department of Justice near the Spring Bright Gate. Before he reached the river, he could already hear the clamor of shouting. And waves of stench. The river channel was clogged all year round. If it was not cleaned up for a long time, then it would be fine. It was only when one walked in that the stench would come. But if someone were to wash it here, then the stench would definitely reach the sky. Zhang Feng pinched his nose and stuck his head out from a small alley behind a tailor shop. His eyes widened. What the hell? Good guy. He saw that in the river channel, everyone was bare-chested, sticking their butts out as they dug the mud. A group of old Navy soldiers were like loaches, diving into the water. As long as they found something hard, they would immediately stick the willow branches in their hands there. In an instant, dozens of people would rush up, as if they wanted to empty the bottom of the river. On the shore, there were all kinds of porcelain fragments, or even intact chamber pots, porcelain, rusty arrow shafts, crossbows, broadswords and bronze swords. They were all casually thrown on the shore. Seeing this, Zhang Feng was drooling. If this was in the future, then these would be priceless treasures. Especially one of the scabbard that was shining with golden light, it made Zhang Feng unable to move his eyes away. This thing was either something that came along with it, or something that was left behind by an important person in some dynasty. This kind of treasure was a scabbard made of pure gold. These simple people, however, did not fight over it. If this was in the future, damn, even a broken tile would be picked up by people in minutes. How could they still see it? At that moment, an old voice rang out from behind Zhang Feng. You're right. You're right. Isn't this shopkeeper Zhang? Zhang Shanren, what are you doing here? This place stinks to the heavens. If you get stained by it, it won't be good. Quickly leave. Zhang Feng was also stunned. Old man, I also want to help. You are all busy, I am just a strong young man, no. The old man was angry. He shouted, someone come. Zhang Shanren is here. A few young men, come and carry Zhang Shanren back. In this place, we cannot let Zhang Shanren's body be stained. Zhang Feng's face darkened. He was really carried away by a few strong men on their shoulders, as if they were carrying a sack. Chapter 270. Dong, dong, dong. With the sound of 3 morning bells. At the dawn of the east, the civil and military officials, after going through layers of inspection in front of the Vermilion Bird Gate, slowly entered the Vermilion Bird Avenue. All the officials had a heavy heart at this time, but there was a group of people who were staring sharply at Wei Zhang and the others, who were standing at the front of the line. If looks could kill, Wei Zhang and the others would have been killed thousands of times. These people were the officials of the 5 surnames and 7 hopes. Last night, they received a secret letter from the Guanlong group. They impeached Fang Xianling for taking advantage of the responsibility of the Ministry of Works to tamper with the currency without authorization. They impeached Zhang Sun Wuji for colluding with the officials and merchants, which led to the current chaos in Chang'an. They impeached the emperor for ignoring the expectations of the people of the world and using all the silver in the national treasury to buy the so-called seafood from Jinla without authorization. That kind of thing is absolutely disgusting to look at. This was the emperor's doing. If it wasn't for Wei Zhang, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Zhang Sun Wuji urging, would the emperor be like this? These people should be killed. At this time, Wei Zhang and the others didn't seem to see the eyes of these people. Several people exchanged glances and entered the political announcement hall. Today, the atmosphere in the political announcement hall was a bit strange. No one was like before, whispering in 2s and 3s. It was as if they didn't see the actions of hundreds of thousands of people in Chang'an last night. In this strange atmosphere, Cheng Yaojin finally couldn't resist the feeling of having a knife on his back. The natural military blood made him explode. But just as he was about to burst out, Wei Zhang grabbed his hand and shook his head slightly. The emperor arrives. With the eunuch's shout, everyone hurriedly knelt and shouted in unison, "Welcome the emperor! Long live the emperor!" Li Shimin walked out of the back hall amidst the cheers of the officials. However, this time, Li Shimin did not step onto the 9 steps to heaven's staircase. Instead, he slowly walked to the top of the hall and surveyed the crowd. Wei Zhang nodded slightly, and Li Shimin's expression finally relaxed. His bloodshot eyes finally let go of the last bit of worry. Last night, Li Shimin did not sleep at all. He couldn't sleep. He didn't dare to sleep until he received news of the 8 Rivers Channel. This was because he knew that something was bound to happen at the morning court. But after seeing Wei Zhang's affirmation, Li Shimin was finally relieved. Everyone, rise. Thank you, Your Majesty. Everyone stood up. However, there were still a dozen officials who remained kneeling on the ground. A murderous intent flashed in Li Shimon's eyes as he asked, Minister of Taichung Temple, what are you waiting for? The Minister of Taichung Temple and the others hurriedly knelt and said, Your Majesty, we have something to report. Your Majesty. Cui Fengjun, the imperial astronomer, has something to report. The Cui family. Approved. Li Shimon's eyes flashed slightly. It seemed that the 8 noble families of Guanlong were on the same side after all. Cui Fengjun, the imperial astronomer, heard the words and said first, Your Majesty, I have been observing the sky at night and found that Mars shone brightly in the night sky, even brighter than the moon. There must be a demon bewitching people. What? Mars guarding the heart? Heavens! Could it be that the disaster in Chang'an was caused by this calamity? Hearing this, all the officials whispered in horror. Li Shimon smiled coldly. He looked at Cui Fengjun with interest and asked, Then tell me, what kind of demon is bewitching me? This, Cui Fengjun hesitated. However, he continued, Your Majesty, I'm sure you know that once the Antares Heart Guardian is activated, there will definitely be a great calamity. The imperial astronomer has been calculating for the past few days, but alas, a calamity still appeared in Chang'an. So you are saying that it is my fault? How did the disaster in Chang'an happen? Are the people saying that they are fools who do not know who did it? You, the imperial astronomer, are saying that this is Mars guarding the heart? Then I would like to ask you, is this man's fault or is it the fault of the heavens? Li Shimon was furious. He could no longer hide his murderous intent. Cui Fengjun trembled. The members of the imperial astronomer behind him, the members of the 5 noble families and the Guanlong group, all fell to their knees. Your Majesty, this man is Prime Minister Wei. We have seen it with our own eyes at the imperial astronomer. All the divination points to one person, and that is Prime Minister Wei. If not for Prime Minister Wei cursing Your Majesty in court, he would have entered the imperial harem many times. This is something that has been strictly forbidden in every dynasty, but Prime Minister Wei and his people turned a blind eye to it and still swaggered into the imperial harem. We do not know why Prime Minister Wei would go to the imperial harem so casually, but this matter must have triggered Mars guarding the heart and caused the disaster in Chang'an. Moreover, this incident in Chang'an started from a rumor. How could the people on the trade route so easily shut down the trade route? This is obviously because everyone has seen Mars guarding the heart and is afraid of Chang'an. That is why they are avoiding it. At this time, only by killing Prime Minister Wei, who has caused chaos in the imperial harem, can the world be at peace. Are you asking me to cut off my own limbs? Very good. Very good. Li Shimon was so angry that he laughed. Wei Zheng, on the other hand, was still standing there without saying a word. Li Shimon looked around at the people kneeling on the ground and asked, Is this what all of you think? The Taichung Temple chief and the others hurriedly said, We have some spies in Chang'an and have seen Prime Minister Wei, Lord Zhangsun, General Cheng, and the others frequently go out of the city in disguise. We even saw. Your Majesty. Therefore, we think that it is not right to punish them for this matter. Good. Very good. Is there anyone else who thinks so? Li Shimon shouted angrily. In an instant, a large number of people knelt again. Even the warlords of the Guanlong group in the north knelt when the generals knelt. At this time, there were only about 30 people who were still standing. In the end, Li Shimon's fury could not be extinguished. Just as Li Shimon was about to order the arrest of these people, Fang Xianling suddenly shouted. Your Majesty. I have something to report. Chapter 271. The person who had been silent all this while. Finally, he spoke. Moreover, he was the person that the officials had been impeaching. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but want to hear what Fang Xianling had to say. Originally, the Ministry of Works was a department controlled by people with different surnames. However, the emperor stood his ground and insisted on letting Fang Xianling come. Wasn't this cutting off other people's source of income? How could this be? Among the hundreds of officials, at least 70 of them were kneeling. They were sure that the emperor wouldn't dare to touch them. After all, they were backed by two powerful figures. Li Shimin wouldn't dare. But at this moment, Fang Xianling came out. Everyone couldn't help but look up and look at Fang Xianling and the others with a playful expression. They wanted to see what Fang Xianling had to say. Fang Xianling bowed first and then said loudly, "As for the matters that you have mentioned, I have a different opinion." "Let's hear it." Li Shimin waved his hand and put down the butcher's knife in his heart. "I think that the reform at this time is also a disguised form of benefiting the people. Although the trade routes outside are blocked, it allows all merchants to unleash their potential under such circumstances. I have seen those merchants in Cheng and Market. Many of them didn't panic and didn't suffer any losses. Instead, they made a lot of money. As for the new currency, I also have to report to the emperor. All the currency is transported by horse carriage. Not only is it tedious and cumbersome, but it is also easy to wear and tear. The speed of transactions is greatly reduced. Therefore, the emergence of a new currency is inevitable. I have already seen the results of this in Chang'an. Therefore, I think that both of these matters are correct. As for the sealing of the trade routes, those are just words to confuse the people." Fang Xianling stroked his white beard and stared at Taichung Temple Chief Yu Jinyan. "Lord Yu, were you going to talk about these matters just now? As the chief of Taichung Temple, you don't go to the people to understand. Instead, you talk nonsense in the court. Tell me, are you trying to confuse the people with your lies?" Yu Jinyan stood up, neither servile nor overbearing. He bowed and took out a booklet from his bosom. "Your Majesty, this is the result of my investigation in Chang'an." "No need." Li Shimin didn't even look at him. "Yesterday, I received the results of the Imperial Guard's investigation in Chang'an, as well as the Crown Prince. Therefore, I will naturally distinguish who is right and who is wrong. Prime Minister Wei, they say that Antares guards the heart. Don't you have anything to say?" Li Shimin was very angry. How could Wei Zheng still be able to stand at a time like this? If it weren't for Fang Xianling, Ma would have already killed him. When Wei Zheng heard this, he replied calmly, "Your Majesty, this old subject doesn't know what to say. I don't understand what they're talking about. I only know that the heavens are watching. As for Mars being the guardian of the planet, this subject has nothing to say about the face of the imperial astronomer, even if it is forced upon the evil deed of sealing off the trade routes in Chang'an. You, Wei Zheng, don't be presumptuous. The imperial astronomer was established by the emperor to observe the celestial phenomena. Don't anger the heavens. If the heavens punish, no need." At this moment, Wei Zheng waved his hand lightly. "Just last night, the old man and Lord Yuan Tiangang talked all night, but he didn't say anything. Do you think your knowledge has surpassed Mr. Yuan's?" This, Cui Fengjun was speechless. But he blinked and said, "How can we compare with Mr. Yuan's talent? He must have been held hostage by you. That's why he said such things." "Is that so?" Li Shimin wanted to laugh. He waved his hand and said, "Yuan Tiangang is here." Cui Fengjun's face completely changed. Even the faces of all the people kneeling in the court changed at this time. They had calculated everyone and everything, but this Yuan Tiangang, with unfathomable skills and knowledge, was highly valued by the emperor. He only served the emperor on weekdays. Even if they wanted to visit him, they had no way to do so. In the words of Yuan Tiangang, they didn't deserve to visit him. But now, it was the fact that Antares was guarding the heart. What would Yuan Tiangang say? Just when everyone's mind was turning rapidly, a grayish-black man with a black and white 8 trigrams pattern on his body, holding a Buddha whisk in his hand, and a Tai Chi Yin-Yang pattern on his grayish-white hair bun, walked into the hall with a gesture. Yuan Tiangang didn't look at the people kneeling on the ground. He just gave a slight salute to the emperor. "Boundless Lord of Heaven. I pay my respects to the emperor." Because I'm checking how to get rid of the filth in the palace, I ask the emperor to forgive me for my rudeness. Li Shimon's expression eased slightly. He waved his hand lightly, get up at once. Now some people say that Antares was guarding the heart because Prime Minister Wei went in and out of the harem many times, which led to the closure of the trade route in Cheng and by evil people. What does Mr. Yuan think of this matter? Antares was guarding the heart? Yuan Tiangang was stunned. Your Majesty, I usually meditate on the roof at night. Why don't I see Antares was guarding the heart? Is there another master in the world? No. Li Shimon smiled slightly. He pointed to Cui Fengjun of the Imperial Astronomer and said, it was Lord Cui of the Imperial Astronomer who said that there was a demon in the palace. It was Prime Minister Wei. Hearing that, Yuan Tiangang was amused. Ha ha ha. Your Majesty, please forgive me. I can't help laughing. I really don't understand why the Imperial Astronomer said so. I've been observing the celestial phenomena during this time. The celestial phenomena are indeed abnormal. The Ziwei star is shining, but it is a little similar to Antares. Didn't Lord Cui see this in the ancient books of the Imperial Astronomer? Your Majesty. The Ziwei star is in the world. And the person is in the market of Chang'an. He is an extraordinary person who hasn't appeared for thousands of years. We think that he will definitely solve the crisis this time when the city is sealed. Li Shimon was shocked. Wei Zheng and others were also shocked. How the F***ck could he have foreseen this? Was Yuan Tiangang a god? The Ziwei star, wasn't that Brother Zhang Feng? This time, he really was the one who resolved the crisis. Thinking of this, Li Shimon smiled. He looked around and said, Master Yuan is right about this matter. The Ziwei star has appeared. I was almost fooled by your stupidity. Men, drag Cui Fengjun out and punish him with 30 strokes of the cane. There is one more thing that I forgot to mention. What about the city being sealed? Has Chang'an been sealed? Wait and see if the overstocked caravans in Chang'an will be sealed in the city. I will remember this account. When the crisis in Chang'an is over, I will have a good talk with you about today's misleading people. Court is dismissed. Chapter 272. The crisis was lifted? So fast. This time, Yuan Tiangang was also shocked. He had not slept for 2 days because of this matter. He had been investigating how to solve the crisis in Chang'an. However, except for the appearance of the Ziwei star, all the clues revolved around this Ziwei star. Did the emperor find this Ziwei star? If not, how could the emperor solve the crisis in Chang'an city so quickly? According to the 9 changes 8 diagrams, all the channels in Chang'an city were blocked. This, as he walked, Yuan Tiangang ignored the greetings of the crowd. His hands were quickly making seals. However, today's seal made Yuan Tiangang surprised. Because, the seal this time, in the land of death yesterday, there was actually a glimmer of light. This, Yuan Tiangang was shocked. Dilemma, what was the solution to the dilemma? Yuan Tiangang thought hard and searched in his heart. He even used the 5 elements algorithm that he didn't want to use the most. Finally, he stood on the Suzaku Bridge in horror and looked at the rolling water under his feet. Water. The solution to the crisis in the imperial city is actually water. Right, water is good at healing. It is supposed to clean up the blockage. This hexagram is full of blockage, but there is a trace of water machine. Is this? Yuan Tiangang couldn't help but think of the sensational thing that happened in Chang'an yesterday afternoon. Basically, the entire Chang'an city was involved in a huge project to clean up the river. Although everyone said that it was to clean up the river, make the river clear and beautiful, the emperor thought that these rivers affected the beauty. However, judging from the hexagram at this time, it didn't seem to be as simple as imagined. But as for what was not simple, he couldn't tell. Is this the solution to the crisis in Chang'an? But these 8 rivers, 8 dragon veins. How to solve the crisis? Yuan Tiangang walked away in confusion. In the deep palace of Taiji Palace, Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, Zhang Sun Wuji, Qing Yao Jin, and others sat together again and drank tea slowly. It was as if everything that had happened in the main hall had nothing to do with them. A few moments later, Li Shimin returned to Taiji Palace in high spirits. As soon as they entered the door, Li Shimin waved his hand and asked everyone to sit down. Then he said, "This time, we have openly fallen out with the people of the 5 surnames and 7 Wangs, as well as the Guanlong 8 tribes. Is the river channel really cleaned up this time?" "Reporting to your majesty." Wei Zheng stood up and bowed. "Everything is ready. Last night, the Navy veterans used dozens of boats of different weights to test the river. There was no obstruction at all." "All right." Li Shimin waved his robe. "Then immediately arrange this matter for me. I want to see all the people of the caravan evacuate from Cheng, and before tonight." "As you command." Everyone left in a hurry. In the end, Li Shimin stopped Qing Yao Jin and said, "General Qing, this time, I have to trouble you to send your most capable men to personally escort along the way and cooperate with the veterans to ensure the safety of the people along the way. If anyone blocks them, kill them." Qing Yao Jin heard this and hurriedly saluted. "Your Majesty, leave this matter to me. You can rest assured. But there is one thing that I don't understand." "Speak." Li Shimin sat next to Qing Yao Jin and asked, "If there are people of the 5 surnames and 7 Wangs or people of Guanlong blocking the way, should I fight or not?" This, Li Shimin frowned. This time, if he fought, it was tantamount to completely falling out with Guanlong. Now was not the time. But if he didn't fight, what would he do if he encountered them? This was something that Li Shimin hadn't thought of. Although there were many dangerous rivers along the way, these were not a problem. If Qing Yao Jin could deal with them, and with the tens of thousands of navy, they would definitely be able to deal with them. However, Li Shimin was still a little hesitant about Guanlong. To fight or not to fight? This was the main problem now. "Your Majesty, I have an idea, but I don't know if I should say it." At this moment, little Gizi said hesitantly. Li Shimin's eyes lit up. The reason why little Gizi had always been by his side was that he had followed him since he was young, so there was no need to worry about his loyalty. More importantly, he was intelligent. If it weren't for the fact that eunuchs couldn't participate in politics, Li Shimin would have promoted him to an official long ago. Now that little Gizi had spoken, Li Shimin couldn't help but be interested. "Your Majesty, I think that if we disguise General Chang's subordinates as the guards of these merchants, wouldn't that work? Moreover, the people of the military are straightforward and rough, very similar to those servants. They are suitable for fighting in all kinds of terrains and can form all kinds of battle formations at any time. If each merchant group is accompanied by 30 guards, we can ensure that this matter will be foolproof." Approved. Li Shimin didn't even think about it. He directly clapped his hands and made the decision. Qing Yaojin's eyes also revealed a look of understanding. He got up and cupped his fists, saying, "I will go now. With the identity of a guard, I am not afraid of anything." Chapter 273. In Zhang Feng's shop. At this moment, Uncle He, Zhu Zi's father, and the best matchmaker in the city were all sitting together in his small tavern, looking at Zhang Feng meaningfully. Zhang Feng's head was about to explode. 3 jugs of wine had already been served. Several plates of dishes had been eaten. He even saw the matchmaker kick a large plate of meat into her pocket. However, they had been sitting there for 4 hours and still had no intention of leaving. How could Zhang Feng not know their purpose for coming? What could they do when the matchmaker was here? Uncle He seemed to think that Zhang Feng's brain was too slow and could only wave his hand to stop him from wiping the counter that was about to be torn. "Fengzi, come and sit down. The old elementary scholar will be here soon." Zhang Feng was a little afraid of the old elementary scholar. There was no other reason than that mouth of hers. He couldn't stand it. Why would the old elementary scholar come here for no reason? Zhang Feng continued to play dumb, but he also knew that he could not avoid it. He helplessly hung his head and sat on the table. At this moment, the matchmaker stared at Zhang Feng and clicked her tongue. Her mouth was like a cricket's and Zhang Feng almost slapped her. After looking at him for a long time, the matchmaker finally nodded and seemed satisfied. After a while, the old elementary scholar strode into the small tavern and pushed Zhang Feng away with a slap. He sat on Zhang Feng's stool and poured himself a bowl of wine. After drinking a bowl of food happily, he said, "I went to see that family. They accepted the gift and I also met their daughter. She is very beautiful and can give birth to a son." "Wait!" Zhang Feng exploded. He hurriedly asked, "Old elementary scholar, you want to get married? Which family's daughter is blind?" "No, I mean, she has such a good eye for a gentleman and likes you." The old elementary scholar's face immediately darkened. He glared at Zhang Feng but did not argue. "Old man is thinking for you." Originally, old man thought that by finding a marriage for you, he could get a free drink in the future. Now it seems that this is what Zhang Feng thinks of the old man. No, no, no. How can that be? You're an old man of great talent and wealth. I'm afraid I can't even catch up to you. Zhang Feng felt a headache coming on. Old man continued to flatter the old scholar, but the old scholar didn't seem to hear him. He talked to the matchmaker in a low voice for a while, then slowly took out a jade pendant from his chest and sighed. "This jade pendant was originally prepared by old man's mother for my future wife, but I'm all alone now and I'm afraid there's no hope. So I'll leave it to you, brat. Take it as a congratulatory gift from old man. Don't refuse. This piece of jade is rumored to be an antique from the Qin dynasty." The old scholar's heart ached. Zhang Feng had a headache. Damn it, did they ask for my permission? Lao Tzu hadn't even met that girl, and they already arranged this? F***ck. Uncle could tolerate this, but Lao Tzu couldn't. Old man, wait. Zhang Feng hurriedly snatched the jade pendant from the matchmaker's hand and put it away. "I appreciate your kindness, but this matter is about the parents' orders and the matchmaker's words. I've done my research. Your family members are all gone in the flood and landslide. That means that you're the only heir of the Zhang family. Then, this is easy. Since you don't have parents, and we respect you so much, then we'll consider ourselves your elders and help you." Matchmaker? This is the best matchmaker we've found in Chang'an. When old woman Wang heard that she was going to be a matchmaker for you, she didn't even ask for the money. That's right. Brother Zhang. To be a matchmaker for such a kind person like you is a blessing that I, old woman Wang, have cultivated for 8 lifetimes. Don't think too much about it. I'm quite famous in Chang'an City, so don't worry about this marriage. Since the girl's family has agreed to it, it'll definitely happen. Success my ass. Lao Tzu had agreed to it a few moments ago. Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. Uncle He, Father Zhuzi, Old Man Wang, I appreciate your kindness, but I've promised my family and my master that if I don't make a name for myself, or if I don't meet someone I truly like, Zhang Feng, would rather be a bachelor for the rest of my life than bring shame to my family's name or bring shame to my master's reputation. The old scholar was shocked. However, at this moment, Zhang Feng took out a jade pendant that he had gotten from Prince Chenla. That was a supreme-grade purple jade. It was so dazzling that it hurt everyone's eyes. The purple jade was engraved with a hollowed-out pattern of a phoenix seeking a phoenix. A string of gold particles was attached to the pendant, which made the jade pendant look very magical. Zhang Feng sighed and said, "This is the treasure that my master bestowed upon me. Do you believe me now?" The old scholar was in a dilemma. He had forgotten about Zhang Feng's mysterious master. If it wasn't for his guidance, how could Zhang Feng have such achievements in literature at the age of 20? Whether it was the wine, dishes, food, or even the fine salt, all of them were easy to handle. Since his master had spoken, what could they do? In the end, they fiddled with it in a low voice, shook their heads, and sighed before leaving. However, when they reached the door, the old scholar's face darkened and he reached out to take back his jade pendant. Just when Zhang Feng thought that this matter was over, the old scholar hurriedly asked, "What's your master's name?" Chapter 274. In Li Shimon's palace. It was rare for Li Shimon to have a good sleep. After yesterday's morning court, he was in a good mood. He drank a jar of Zhang Feng's wine with Yuan Tiangang and left after Yuan Tiangang repeatedly praised it. This made Li Shimon's mood particularly comfortable. Even someone as strong as Yuan Tiangang didn't expect that he could use the Chang and 8 rivers to solve this crisis. How could Yuan Tiangang be amazed? Li Shimon, who was in a good mood, fell asleep after a tender moment with Empress Zhangsun. This was the first good sleep he had since he knew that Guan Long was going to stir up trouble. However, as soon as he woke up from such a good sleep, he received a piece of disturbing bad news. Seeing that Li Shimon had woken up, Xiao Gizi helped him dress and eat. Then he said, "Your Majesty, Prime Minister Wei and Lord Zhangsun have been waiting outside the palace for a long time." Hearing this, Li Shimon didn't take it seriously and waved his hand. "Send them in and have a drink with me." A moment later, as soon as Wei Zheng and Zhangsun Wuji entered the door, they knelt in front of Li Shimon with a plop. Li Shimon, who was in a good mood, knew that something had happened when they knelt. How could he be in the mood to eat at this time? Throwing away his chopsticks and dismissing all the palace maids and eunuchs, Li Shimon asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" If nothing had happened, would they be like this? That would be like encountering a ghost. Wei Zheng and Zhangsun Wuji looked at each other. Zhangsun Wuji said, "Your Majesty, something has happened. The water of the Chang and 8 rivers can indeed carry ships, but I don't know what happened to the ships. I don't know if the water is too shallow or something else, but most of the ships are in trouble." "What happened?" "They sank." "How could it be? Didn't you say that they had been tested by the Navy? How could something have happened?" Li Shimon was angry. This was the last thing he wanted to hear. But at this time, something really happened. How could he not be worried? "Your Majesty, we've asked the Navy soldiers. They mentioned something about load capacity, water draft, and so on. I don't understand either, but the general idea is that the riverbed of the 8 rivers is full of stones. Large ships can't enter, and most of the small cargo ships would be pierced by the stones at the bottom of the river before they could even leave Chang'an's boundary." "What, this, how is this possible? Then have the merchants' goods been saved?" "The goods are fine, but the joy they had just built was shattered once again. Some people even fainted on the spot. The 2 of them didn't dare to imagine what they were seeing. If His Majesty knew, then, but how could Li Shimon not imagine such a scene? Although they only concealed the worst part, how could he not know how miserable it was to hear such things from their mouths? "Then, is there a way to solve this problem?" "Yes." Wei Zheng continued, "I personally went to find Zhang Liang. He said that if we want to sail, we have to clear the dark stones in the entire river, or change to a light boat. But, it's obvious that clearing the riverbed from here to the Yellow River is impossible. It's impossible to change to a light boat. Although a light boat is good, the cargo capacity is too small, and there aren't that many ships near Chang'an. Shallow water. Dark stones. If they knew the importance of the 8 rivers earlier, this wouldn't have happened." They saw a glimmer of hope. But now, their hope was shattered again due to their negligence. How could Li Shimon not be worried? Is there any other way? Li Shimon rubbed his forehead and asked. This time, the 2 of them were silent. Li Shimon once again felt the world spinning around him. Is there no other way? Then, does God want to destroy the Tang dynasty? Li Shimon's anger couldn't help but surge again when he thought of the faces of the Guanlong group. Li Shimon didn't hide the matter this time, so everyone in Chang'an city knew that all the goods were out of Chang'an through the waterway. The goods were out. But they were stranded outside Chang'an city. What's the use of that? In less than half a day, this matter would spread all over Chang'an city. By then, it wouldn't be a panic. In Li Shimon's mind, as long as there was a ship that could be recorded in the books, he went through them one by one. However, there wasn't a single ship that could be used. Or it could be said that it was too late. What should I do? Is there no one in the Tang dynasty who can solve the current situation? Is there no other genius in Chang and city except for brother Zhang Feng? Li Shimon was really anxious. Your Majesty. We found the most experienced boatmen in Chang and city, but they can't do anything. I think that perhaps only brother Zhang Feng can solve this matter. Li Shimon was silent. Brother Zhang Feng. He slowly sold his guilt to Zhang Feng. Everything needs to be solved by Zhang Feng. Is there really no one in my court? In the end, Li Shimon thought about it, but there was really no one who could be useful. Sigh. Let's go and find brother Zhang Feng. Chapter 275. In the tavern. Zhang Feng was once again like a dead fish, lying on the table and sleeping soundly. On the ground next to him, several lobsters jumped out of the wooden basin and jumped on the ground, but he didn't notice. And at this moment, 3 black shadows suddenly blocked the glaring sunlight at the entrance of the tavern. Zhang Feng couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. Looking at the 3 black shadows at the entrance, Zhang Feng scratched his head and said, "The tavern is closed today. Brother Zhang Feng, why don't you receive me when I'm here?" The familiar voice woke up Zhang Feng, who was about to go back to sleep. Yo! Laoli. Have you finished your business? I just heard that the goods in Chang and city have all gone out through the river. Come, sit. I'm going to wash my face and wake up. Zhang Feng got up and went to the backyard to wash his face with cold water. Only then did he go to the front hall refreshed. Li Shimon admired the new furniture and clicked his tongue in wonder. Brother Zhang Feng, why did you remember to change the furniture? These things are worth a lot. Yes. These are all changed by your precious son. Zhang Feng spread his hands and pointed at the lobsters on the floor. He asked, "Do you want to eat this thing or not? I'll get you a spicy crayfish." "Whatever you say." Zhang Feng smiled. Then he went into the kitchen. How could he not see the worry on Li Shimon's face? What's going on? The ship had already left Chang'an. What else could go wrong? Could it be that they were blocked by the Guanlong group? That was also impossible. Guanlong also knew the importance of the matter. If they started a war with the Li dynasty, the ones who would benefit would either be the 5 families and 7 nobles, or the Tubo and Turkic barbarians. They wouldn't be so stupid. However, what exactly had gone wrong with the current situation? Zhang Feng didn't understand. She hurriedly prepared the crayfish and carried the basin out of the kitchen. That enticing aroma still made Li Shimon and the other 2 look at the bright red crayfish in the basin in surprise. This scene made Zhang Feng even more certain that Li Shimon was in real trouble this time. Zhang Feng didn't beat around the bush and asked directly, "Tell me, what trouble did you encounter this time?" Don't say that His Majesty declared war on Guanlong. As long as one isn't an idiot, no one will believe it. Li Shimon's face stiffened. Wei Zheng and Zhangsun Wuji's faces twitched as well. They stole a glance at Li Shimon. Li Shimon rubbed his hands and chuckled. He grabbed a lobster and started chewing without even peeling it. Well, there's indeed a problem this time, but it's not about the war with Guanlong. It's about the ship. The river has been cleared, but there's a problem with the ship. I don't know if it's because the ship can't bear the weight of the supplies or something else, but the bottom of the ship was pierced by the dark stones in the river after leaving Chang and city. That's it? Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimon in surprise. He was very suspicious. Was the 5-tooth warship, such an awesome ship, bragging or something else? If that thing could be built, how could this thing be a problem? Li Shimon almost felt sweet in his heart. He was about to spit out a mouthful of old blood. That's it? Do you King know that this is making people worried to death? What else do you want? Wei Zheng and Zhangsun Wuji also twitched the corners of their mouths. Brother Zhang Feng was indeed awesome. How could he insult him in front of this master? Is this really okay? Don't you think about it? When you find out the emperor's identity, how will King survive? They really wanted to see the scene when Zhang Feng found out everyone's identity. How exciting would that be? They didn't know if it was because they were familiar with Zhang Feng or something else, but now Li Shimin and the others were looking at Zhang Feng more and more and wanted to beat him up more and more. This guy was really too despicable. Every time something happened, he didn't talk about it properly. It was as if he hadn't spoken at all. He just had to show off. This was unbearable. Zhang Feng saw the strange expressions on the three people's faces. He touched his nose and coughed dryly. This matter can basically be solved. Now that you've found me, your hearts can be at ease. To put it bluntly, this is not a big deal. As long as it's not a war with Guanlong, this matter is not a big deal. But I have a question. Li Shimin asked carefully, what question? He was afraid of Zhang Feng. He was afraid that Zhang Feng would catch him off guard at some point. Zhang Feng peeled a prawn and dipped it in the sauce. Under everyone's fiery eyes, he chewed the prawn and said, the previous dynasty could even make things like the five-tooth worship. I'm puzzled. This is such a simple thing. Can't you think of it? Just say it. What's the solution? Zhangsun Wuji had completely lost his patience and asked directly. Zhang Feng shrugged and felt bored. Well, it seems that you're really in trouble. Let me ask you, why didn't I see you yesterday? What were you doing? They still didn't play by the rules. Li Shimin's face darkened. He said word by word, yesterday, we accompanied the emperor to think of a solution. Oh. Did you see the emperor? Tell me, is his majesty covered in dragon scales? Puff. Chapter 276. Li Shimin wanted to hit someone. He really wanted to hit someone. During this period of time, his murderous intent was very strong. He really wanted to find someone to kill, but he couldn't. At this time, looking at Zhang Feng's face that deserved a beating, Li Shimin couldn't help but want to punch him in the face. Too despicable. Damn it, all the IQ could be turned into a negative number when it came to Zhang Feng. At this time, Li Shimin finally understood why he could mess with the son of King Jinla, the crown prince of Jinla. This guy was born a genius. This was a perfectly fine matter, so why did it suddenly involve whether or not he had dragon scales? Didn't you see clearly what I have on my body? However, Li Shimin could only criticize in his heart. He secretly thought that if Zhang Feng entered the imperial court in the future, he would teach him a good lesson. This guy, brother Zhang Feng, let's talk about serious matters. Besides, have you ever seen anyone with scales on their body? Li Shimin said weakly. Zhang Feng's interest waned and he stopped talking. I was still wondering how His Majesty could know everything that I could think of. I thought His Majesty was really a divine dragon in the sky. It turns out that he's still a human. However, it's not bad that he has half of my ability. Today, I, Zhang Feng, dare to bet that there's really no one other than His Majesty who can guess what I can guess. Zhang Feng's flattery made Li Shimin feel comfortable all over. He automatically ignored Zhang Feng's claim that he only had half of Zhang Feng's ability. He was just saying it and couldn't be taken seriously. By the way, brother Zhang Feng, you mentioned the five-toothed warship. Do you mean that you want to use the five-toothed warship to transport goods to Chang'an? But whether it's the Ba River or the Wei River, they can't carry such a heavy ship. Moreover, there are stones everywhere under the riverbed. There's no way to do it. Li Shimin didn't want to retreat anymore and went straight to the point. He was afraid that Zhang Feng would start rambling again. That's easy. Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder and wiped his hands. The five-tooth warship definitely won't be able to come, but as you said, there are no ships that can transport these goods out. Then tell me, how much water does the five-tooth warship need? What is draft? Li Shimin looked around. Zhang Sun Wuji and Wei Zheng also shook their heads in confusion. He couldn't understand at all. Zhang Feng slapped his head. Only then did he remember that if people in this era knew how much water they needed to eat, they would be really awesome. Fine. Forget it. Let's put it this way, which river can the five-tooth warship reach at most? Li Shimin understood this time. Zhang Sun Wuji continued, if it's not loaded, it can reach Yongzhou. But that's the limit. However, most of our goods have to go around the Qinling Mountains and pass through Jingzhou to reach Liangzhou. Large ships can't go up there at all. Moreover, the Qinling Mountains are steep and there are many stones in the river. I remember that there was a rainstorm a few days ago. Did the Wei River that passes through the Qinling Mountains rise? Zhang Feng's brainless question instantly shut Zhang Sun Wuji up. There was no room for discussion. Zhang Feng frowned and said to himself, if that's the case, it's indeed difficult to travel on large ships. But if we change it to a small boat, won't it be different? No. The weight of a small boat is small, and Chang'an doesn't have that many light boats. This method won't work. We've discussed it before. It still won't work. Zhang Feng frowned. After drinking a mouthful of wine, he took a piece of bark from the table and placed it on the wine bowl. Instantly, everyone's eyes focused on the piece of bark. Everything about this table is good. But why is it all bark under the table? Old Li, I don't know if your son bought me inferior goods. Li Shimin rolled his eyes. Let's not talk about other things. Just take out a little bit of the stuff from Prince Xinla and you can exchange everything here with pure gold. Isn't this table always like this? What does it have to do with what we're talking about? Li Shimin was going crazy. Zhang Feng pursed his lips. Alright, your son is awesome. The things he gives away are the best. Then, let's not talk nonsense. Take a look at this bark. What do you think? Are you sure you can't understand it? Li Shimin couldn't help narrowing his eyes at Zhang Feng's last question. You're talking about making a raft out of bark? And then carrying goods out? Get lost. Zhang Feng glared at Li Shimin. He said resentfully, when you go out, don't say that you're Zhang Feng's brother. Why are you so stupid? This is a wine bowl. Can I put anything else in it? What I mean is, you can make it into a raft. A bamboo raft. Or some kind of wood with high buoyancy. Make it into a big raft. Then, do you understand? I'm really doubting your IQ. You want to deal with His Majesty with this? You're lucky to have met me, Zhang Feng. Otherwise, you'd be cheated so badly. Chapter 277. Li Shimin ignored Zhang Feng's last words. He even automatically filtered out Zhang Feng's last words. However, he remembered the raft incident. Raft? How could I forget such a thing? As long as you can remember this point, I will. Bamboo raft, wooden raft. I don't have any ready-made ones, but I can dismantle the hull of a large ship to make one. This would perfectly filter out the danger of the ship's bottom being smashed by rocks. Why didn't anyone think of such a simple method? Why didn't anyone think of such a simple method at this time? Was it too complicated? Or did everyone's thinking go astray? However, Li Shimin sincerely admired Zhang Feng. At the very least, he recalled Zhang Feng's disdainful question when he first arrived. That's it? Li Shimin felt that Zhang Feng was asking for a beating, but now, I'm the one who's really an idiot. Brother Zhang Feng, is it really possible to do something as simple as a raft? If it's possible, why didn't anyone think of it before? This, how would I know? If you want to ask His Majesty. To be honest, you only need to look at the geese on the water to understand. None of you can think of it. I'm simply... enough. Li Shimin was flustered. He hurriedly got up to leave. His Majesty is still waiting for this matter. Lord Zhangsun should be coming to my residence to find a solution soon. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Sorry for the disturbance, goodbye. Li Shimin finished speaking and was about to leave. Wei Zheng immediately followed. Only Zhang Sun Wuji, who was holding a prawn, was stunned. After a moment, he slowly took out an ingot of gold from his pocket and prepared to leave. Zhang Feng was also stunned. Wait. Don't leave yet. Hey. Lao Tzu hasn't finished speaking. When Li Shimin heard this, he slowly withdrew his foot that had already stepped out of the tavern. Zhang Feng said angrily, I haven't finished speaking, and you're already running away? Aren't you afraid of getting beaten up when you go back? This method is only the beginning. After the goods leave the shoal, we still have to change ships. Now, your boats should all be gondolas, right? As he spoke, Zhang Feng knew that they wouldn't understand, so he drew a cross-section of the ship with some wine on the table. Zhang Sun Wuji looked at it and nodded. Yes, all the ships of the Tang dynasty are basically like this. But the bottom of the five-tooth warship is semicircular, even a little like an egg. That's right. Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, Come and sit, don't be impatient. There's a big difference in this matter. The reason why the bottom of your ship was smashed is basically because the surface area of the bottom in the water is too large. And the speed of this thing can't be maximized. If you change the method and change to a ship with a smaller surface area, not only can the speed be maximized, but the probability of the hull being hit will also be greatly reduced. There's such a ship. Zhang Sun Wuji was stunned. How can such a ship float in the water? Li Shimin also frowned. He didn't know anything about this thing. Among the three of them, only Zhang Sun Wuji knew a little about this thing. Wei Zheng was the same as Li Shimin. He didn't know anything about this thing. At this time, he could only sit on the bench and stare at Zhang Sun Wuji and Zhang Feng arguing. Let me explain to you. Zhang Feng patted the end of the bench and motioned for Zhang Sun Wuji to sit, and then said, This is the disadvantage of your current ship. All the ships are made of wood. If I remember correctly, you have already mastered the technology of smelting iron, right? If the bottom and the body of the ship are replaced with iron sheets, think about it. Even if there are thousands of enemy fleets in front of you, you only need one iron lump to annihilate them. You didn't think of this point? Iron? This thing can float in the water? Everyone was shocked again. Zhang Feng knew that no matter how he explained, these people wouldn't understand, so he simply waved his hand and said, Follow me. I'll broaden your horizons. While speaking, Zhang Feng got up and took out his treasured iron wine pot that looked like a Coke bottle from the secret compartment of the counter. Then, under Li Shimin's greedy gaze, he slowly walked into the backyard. Zhang Feng calmly poured some water into the iron kettle from one of the water tanks, and then put the iron kettle into another full water tank. The next moment, an incredible scene appeared. The iron kettle was actually floating on the surface of the water. Although it was a little shaky, it basically wouldn't sink. This scene made the three pillars of the Tang dynasty completely dumbfounded. This pot is made of iron? How can it float on the water? Do you mean to make all the ships like this? But let's not talk about anything else. There's not enough time. And this thing is so small. How heavy will the ship be? Will it really work? Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. Lying down on the recliner in the yard, he said slowly, In the beginning, because of the tight time, I think you only need to make the bottom of all the ships sharp, like a sword or a saber. The blade of the saber will be the bottom of the ship, and the back of the saber can be the deck of the cargo ship. It's that simple. But considering your thing, you only need to cover the bottom of the ship with this thing, and then use it to block the gap. In this way, the speed of the ship will be doubled, and from then on, you won't have to worry about the bottom of the ship being damaged. If you still can't solve this problem, Lao Tzu will eat shit. Chapter 278. In the end, Li Shimin left Zhang Feng's tavern happily. How could he not be happy about such a good thing? What was this? Not only did Zhang Feng solve the problem of the Guanlong blockade for him, but he also directly upgraded all the warships. Just thinking about the warship that Zhang Feng was talking about made him tremble with excitement. If there were 100 of these ironclad warships, then they would be able to crush any enemy on the water. Who would be able to withstand the impact of these iron warships? No. There was no such thing in this world. What is in Brother Zhang Feng's head? He can even think of something like an iron ship. This is truly unprecedented and will never be replicated in the future. Li Shimin sat on the soft couch and sighed with emotion. Everyone, tell me, what is the matter of this ship? At that time, Prime Minister Wei, Zhang Sun Wuji, and I all saw the iron kettle with our own eyes. It really stood on the water. Just like my brush washer. In the imperial study, a big vat was moved in without anyone noticing. Moreover, Li Shimin's brush washer was filled with some ink, which rose and fell in the vat. In the imperial study, not only were Feng Xianling and the others, but also some craftsmen who built ships and some skilled craftsmen from the Ministry of Works. At this time, when they saw the brush washer, their gazes changed. Wooden rafts and bamboo rafts were easy to make. They could get materials from outside Chang'an city at any time. However, this iron ship, as the emperor said, could it float on the water and sail on the water? Your Majesty. This old subject has something to say, but it's not worth saying. At this time, after seeing the brush washer, the turbid eyes of an old man from the Ministry of Works shone brightly. His whole body trembled like a pendulum. Li Shimin waved his hand and said, "Say it. Originally, I called all of you here so that you can speak freely. If you have any thoughts, speak them out and we can discuss them together." I don't know. What if my people from the Ministry of Works work overtime and use a small smelting furnace to forge a model of the five-toothed warship? Why don't we try it out first? Approved. Someone has already taken care of this matter. Perhaps it won't be long before we see it. You all can take a look first and study it. Yes. The old man was slightly disappointed, but the passion in his eyes did not diminish. Iron ship. Furthermore, it was a lump of iron that was made entirely of iron. If it could float on water like the brush washer and sail, then, the Tang dynasty only needed one fleet to sweep the world. Your Majesty. If you don't consider the price of iron, I can make these things. But the problem is that all the iron mines in the Tang dynasty are basically controlled by Guanlong and the 5 clans and 7 kings. What we need, we have to buy from them. If they find out about this and stop selling to us, or if the price suddenly increases, then the cost. It will definitely be an astronomical figure. Now that the Tang dynasty's national strength is weak, we shouldn't do this now. Let's not talk about whether it will succeed, just the cost and the time it takes to build an iron ship is already an astronomical figure. At this time, a minister of the Ministry of Works also raised an objection. Li Shimin frowned slightly. We'll talk about this later. Right now, I just want to know whether this ship can float and whether it can solve the current crisis. As for the iron mines? Money? These are all things for the future. Li Shimin's mood, which had just improved a little, was ruined again, making him very uncomfortable. However, he directly rejected the words of the Ministry of Works. In any case, you should at least let me be happy first, right? We don't have money now. As long as we solve this crisis and completely open up trade, will the Tang dynasty be short of money? At that time, you can just wait to sit in a pile of money and worry about it. Seeing Li Shimin's objection, everyone who wanted to speak out against it fell silent. Now was indeed the best time to solve the current problem. The ship could only be built after this matter was over, and there was no sign of it yet. A moment later, the people of the Ministry of Works hurriedly appeared in the imperial study under the lead of Xiao Gizi. In his hand, he was holding up something covered by a red cloth. The thing was about the length of an arm and the size of 2 adult palms. It looked a little like a ship. Your Majesty, the ship has been built. Your Majesty, please inspect it. It's done. Hearing that, Li Shimin got up from the soft couch, hurried to the man's side, and lifted the cover of the iron ship that was still emitting warmth. The ship was built according to the model of the five-toothed warship, except that it was made of water. Looking at it, it gave people a sense of heaviness. Li Shimin took the iron ship from the man's hands with both hands and then put it in the water. However, under everyone's gazes, the ship. At this moment, when Li Shimin put it in the water, the hull of the ship tilted and fell into the water. With a clink, it sank to the bottom of the tank. Everyone was dumbfounded. This ship. Chapter 279. No. There must be a problem somewhere. Li Shimin frowned and gestured for everyone to fish out the ship. Li Shimin held it in his hand and looked at it carefully. What exactly went wrong? Li Shimin could not help but look at the ink in the brush washer. That's right. From the iron kettle that Zhang Feng showed me earlier to the brush washer, water had been added to it. Is it because there's no water in the ship? Someone, fill the iron ship with water. Yes, the person who had just presented the iron ship was so scared that he was trembling all over. He had wanted to show it off properly, but he did not expect that he would screw it up and sink the ship. At this moment, he panicked. He hurriedly followed Li Shimin's instructions and used a sharp object to pry open a part of the iron ship that seemed to be filled with quicksand. Then, under everyone's gaze, the person nervously placed the model of the ship in the water and carefully washed the model again with the sand inside. Then, he slowly filled the model with water according to the ink in the brush washer. Half an hour. He did this for a full half an hour. Everyone watched with bated breath for half an hour. When the ship was placed steadily on the water, everyone was shocked. Even Li Shimin was dumbfounded. The model of the ship slowly moved forward in the water tank along with the splashing waves. The waterline on the side of the ship was also slowly stabilizing. Everyone from the Ministry of Works who knew how to build ships was shocked. F***CK. Luban, is this Luban alive? Ship, iron ship, can it really float on the water? How is this possible? How can iron float on the water? This has never been recorded in any of the ancient books. The people from the Ministry of Works were completely shocked. What is this? This is a miracle. This is a miracle that the heavens have bestowed upon the Tang dynasty. All the old men from the Ministry of Works collapsed to the ground the moment they saw the model of the iron ship floating on the water tank. He muttered and roared in horror. Who the hell is this? Who the F***CK came up with such a thing? Other than Lu Ban, the old man can't think of anyone else in the world who can make iron float on water. No. Even Lu Ban can't do it. Such a thing, could it be that Master Yuan mentioned that the Ziwei star had brought to the Tang dynasty? Everyone was aghast. They roared crazily, venting the shock in their hearts. It was as if they had forgotten the existence of the emperor. They were a bunch of lunatics obsessed with all kinds of research. Before they saw something, they might not have any expression. They were very pedantic and basically followed the prescribed order. But once they saw something new, then, they would erupt with frightening infatuation and madness. Even if they were to sacrifice their lives, they would not hesitate to do so. For example, Gan Jiang Moxi's sword refiner had used his life as the price to forge that unparalleled godly weapon. At this moment, Li Shimin looked at these people with a smile. He had achieved his goal. The court should be like this. If everyone followed the prescribed order, then the imperial court would be useless. Li Shimin enjoyed this scene very much. He would rather this kind of thing happen in the court every day. In that way, he could really sit quietly on the soft couch with his eyes closed. That kind of enjoyment was really something that he would not exchange for even if he was given the title of an immortal. After Zhang Sun Wuji, Wei Zheng, and the others saw the emperor's expression at this time, they were not as relaxed as the emperor showed. Instead, they were a little worried. Judging from the emperor's appearance, this thing was definitely going to be produced in large quantities. But how much would it cost? That would require a huge amount of money to fill in. This time, the emperor was determined to do it. Then, it was destined that the war with the 5 clans and 7 kingdoms, as well as the Guanlong group, would completely start. Could this battle be won? No one was confident at all. Even with Zhang Feng's existence, could this battle be won? Wei Zheng was silent. Zhang Sun Wuji also stopped smiling. Even Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Xing Yaojin were frowning at this time, thinking about something. At this moment, the imperial study was extremely strange. The people from the Ministry of Works were cheering and crying tears of joy. On the other side, the dukes were deep in thought with their heads lowered. The emperor, who was sitting on a high couch, was enjoying the sight of those crazy people crying and laughing at the same time. He also laughed along with them. After some time, little Gizi quietly pushed open the door of the imperial study from the outside. With a serious expression, he said something in Li Shimon's ear. It was this sentence that made Li Shimon furious. Smack! Li Shimon slapped the couch hard and shouted angrily, "Pass down the order. If anyone dares to spread rumors again, behead them." Everyone was shocked. Even the people from the Ministry of Works who were jubilant just now were now shocked. After Li Shimon gave the order, he turned around and said, "I will give you 3 days to make the bottom of all the merchant ships with pointed anchors for me. Otherwise, behead them." Chapter 280. Ha! Did you know? Those merchants' ships have all been stranded. Now, everyone outside Chang and city is crazily scrambling for goods. Those fur products worth dozens of taels of silver have all been taken away. What? Where? 10 miles away from the city. I heard that many merchants can't take it anymore and hung themselves. Hiss. It's over, it's over. I heard that the emperor offended the Guanlong group. Looks like the emperor is in danger this time. Isn't that so? Sigh. Such rumors were spreading everywhere in Chang and city. Some people were even driving ox carts, donkey carts, and even mules out of the city. At this moment, at the city gate, groups of people could be seen returning to the city with piles of wet goods in their arms. Everyone was bragging about the prosperous scene outside the city. It was as if something had fallen from the sky. The greedy crowd rushed out of the city even more desperately. Right at this moment, from within the imperial city, the sound of drums that would only be heard when there was an emergency were fiercely beaten by someone. Dong! 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 As the sound of the ancient drum beat slowly spread out from the depths of the imperial city, everyone was terrified. Even the commoners who were holding the goods were stunned on the spot. What's going on? This drum is the horn used to gather the Chang and garrison in case of an emergency battle. Is the Turks attacking? F***CK. Run. In the Chamberlain of Dependencies, the young Khagan of the Western Turks frowned as he stared out of the city. What's going on? What's going on outside? Could it be that our people are here? Hearing this, the purple-robed Khagan's follower hurried out. A moment later, he returned like a ghost. Reporting to the Khagan, there are rumors outside the city that the ships of the merchants who stayed in Chang and have been sunk. All their goods are piled up in the forest 10 miles away from the city. Someone is deliberately spreading rumors to rob the goods. Oh. The purple-robed Khagan's lips curled up slightly. It would be fine if it was not their men. Pass down my order. Tell all the spies to stay put. Without my orders, no one is allowed to leave the city. This. Little Khan, this is, Little Khan tilted his head slightly, his bewitching narrow eyes glancing at the man. This must be Li Shimon's scheme. Otherwise, why would there be rumors in the city that the Turks have come? And he even mobilized the Chang and garrison? Do you think Li Shimon is an idiot? I wouldn't dare. The people behind him hurriedly dispersed. On the other hand, the burly Tuihan youth who was guarding beside the little Khan frowned slightly but did not move. As for the Tubo man who had ridiculously long arms, he made a rare gesture towards a stall outside the Chamberlain of Dependencies and did not make any more movements. This made Little Khan's smile grow even wider. Looks like you guys didn't do it either. Could it be that Li Shimin wants to take this opportunity to clean up all the Guanlong group in Chang'an City? No way. Based on our understanding of Li Shimin, he will not start a war with the Guanlong group. It would be great if he did. The burly Tuyahan man clenched his fists and turned to leave, leaving only the Little Khan and the long-armed Tubo youth. Do you think that Li Shimin wants to lure us out? Not interested. This was the reply of the long-armed youth. Little Khan's gaze became more and more playful. She fiddled with a wolf fang on her ear, thinking about something. At that moment, the galloping sounds of the cavalry made the smile on Little Khan's face widen. Ta-ta-ta. Following the sound of hooves. Little Khan also left the window. At this moment, there was nothing to see. Fight. If there is a need to fight, this Khan can do it for you and provoke a war. At the city gate. A group of Imperial guards hurriedly held up a small yellow flag and dashed through the crowd. As they ran, the group of Imperial guards shouted, "Close the city gate. No one is allowed to enter or leave the city without orders. Those who disobey will be beheaded." What? Everyone was shocked when they heard that. When the general of the city gate heard that, he trembled and screamed, "Close the city gate." Smash, smash, smash. Following a series of muffled noises, the huge Anhua Gate, Illustrious Virtue Gate, Qixia Gate, and all the other city gates of Chang'an lit up with fire beacons that had been prepared long ago. At this moment, the entire Chang'an city was shocked. Everyone looked at the billowing smoke with fear. Just as everyone was terrified. Squads of Imperial guards shuttled through every market square. Everyone, go back home. You can only go out tomorrow. Those who disobey orders and go out without permission will be killed by fate. Everyone, get the hell back to your homes. Before sunrise tomorrow, kill anyone you meet in Chang'an without mercy. This time, everyone was really scared. A sense of danger rushed to their brains between their mouths and nostrils. The world was going to change. Chapter 281. On the 10-mile hill outside Chang'an City. At this moment, all of Cheng Yaojin's soldiers, who were disguised as guards, surrounded the goods that were piled up like a mountain behind them. The modeo in their hands had already been drawn, but in the face of the red-eyed commoners, they also panicked. If they were bandits or anyone else, they would have been overpowered by now. However, they were facing the people of Chang'an City. Their eyes were bloodshot at that moment. They held wooden sticks, stones, hoes, sickles, and other items high in their hands as they approached. At that moment, as the leader of this group of soldiers, Cheng Baijia had a headache. Looking at the approaching people, he did not know whether to kill them or not. "Boss, what should we do? Should we kill them or not? Boss. Say something. If this goes on, we won't have a way out." "That's right. Boss." Cheng Baijia sighed, gritted his teeth, and said in a low voice, "We are all elders of Chang'an City. Do not hurt anyone unless absolutely necessary." It was a difficult order, but he was still smart enough to be the leader of the soldiers. If news of him killing people outside Chang'an City spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion in Chang'an City. Not only would the emperor be implicated, but even the emperor and many others would be implicated. He did not dare to do that. He would rather be beaten to death than to do it. That was a military order. It was also a responsibility. However, this responsibility made them feel a slight chill in their hearts at this moment. Were the people they were supposed to protect such people? Cheng Baijia's retreating footsteps eventually bumped into a tree. "Fellow villagers. I know that someone is trying to mislead you. These goods are related to the Tang dynasty and the safety of Chang'an City. I believe that you are all reasonable people. Everyone's hair has turned white because of this. You even took part in the river washing operation yesterday. Have you all forgotten? Get lost. You bastard, what do you know? These things were all discarded by the merchants. Why can others pick them up but not us? You want to take them for yourselves, don't you? That's right. I remember now, you are Qing Yaojin's official soldiers. What kind of person was Qing Yaojin? That Mother***Kerr is an insatiably greedy person. Brothers, go and snatch it for me. Yeah. You guys don't know Qing Yaojin. He had robbed hundreds of women in Longyu. Don't tell me those people should all be robbed. Go. The owner of these things is dead. Why can other commoners snatch them but we can't? It's obvious that Qing Yaojin wants to keep it for himself. Otherwise, why would his people appear here? Bullsh***T. Who the hell cursed Lao Tzu to die? At this moment, the merchant hiding behind the soldiers could no longer sit still. He was so angry that he jumped up and wanted to see who was cursing him. Mother***Kerr, Lao Tzu is showing off his goods here. Mother***Kerr, who are you guys? Do you dare to stand up for Lao Tzu? Mother***Kerr, you want to snatch my goods? If it weren't for these official soldiers, I think all of you would have been beheaded. As the merchant cursed, the crowd finally slowed down. However, a few discordant voices sounded from the crowd again. Yo! Isn't that the Qing family's housekeeper? You're so quick to say that these things belong to the Qing family? Look, fellow villagers. He's talking about the Qing family. What are you waiting for? Snatch it for me. As he spoke, someone threw a fist-sized rock at Qing Baijia's face. Only a bang sound could be heard. Qing Baijia fell stiffly to the ground. The crowd suddenly fell into a dead silence. Someone died. Moreover, it was a military officer who did not look young. This time, they were in big trouble. Some commoners came to their senses and subconsciously threw away the rocks and wooden sticks in their hands. Looking at the blood gushing out of the smashed head like a fountain, many commoners' legs trembled. They finally woke up. That's right. Even if the Qing family wanted it, what did it have to do with them? How could they fight with the Qing family? Moreover, these things came from the treasury. They would not be so stupid as to snatch things at their doorstep, right? That was a stupid thing to do that would cost Qing Yaojin and Duke Qing their lives. Moreover, Duke Qing only had one fierce wife in his family, right? She was famous in Chang and for being ruthless. Would he dare to find a concubine in Longyu? This, everyone hesitated. However, at this moment, a commotion broke out in the crowd once again. Heavens! Someone died. Fellow villagers, hurry up and snatch it. If we kill these soldiers, no one will know that we did it. Otherwise, our property will be confiscated and our ancestors exterminated. Quick, kill them. However, this time, a sharp sound of something breaking through the wind was suddenly heard from the crowd. Whoosh! Following the sound, a man in the crowd fell to the ground with a thud, and an arrow was still quivering rapidly on his forehead. Silence. Silence. There was a deathly silence. Everyone was aghast. As for the Qing Mansion's soldiers, they looked at the 10-mile slope with a smile on their faces. They thought that they were going to die. Chapter 282. The sound of the arrow piercing through the air was heard. It was as if the pause button had been pressed on the crowd. Everyone looked at the arrow, stunned. At this moment, some people in the crowd raised their heads in horror and realized that there were hundreds of imperial guards with bows and arrows standing on the tree branches above their heads. On the hill behind him, Wei Shuyu, who was dressed in shining golden armor, was slowly putting away the crossbow in her hands. At this moment, a young man wearing a bright yellow robe on a white horse also slowly urged his horse to stand on the hill. When the soldiers of the Qing residence saw this person, they all knelt on the ground. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. What? Crown. Crown Prince? Even the Crown Prince is alarmed? Oh my God. Sob, 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 I knew it. I can't take advantage of this. When the crowd heard the Crown Prince's name, many people hurriedly knelt on the ground. Some were so frightened that they peed and shat. Li Qingxian's face was very cold. Just a moment ago, he had watched that person die. If it wasn't for the fact that he was deployed, he wouldn't have been able to resist the urge to kill this group of rioters who had only killed about 500 people. At this moment, Wei Shuyu urged her horse forward and said calmly, "Qingxian, leave this to me. You're too impulsive. You can't do this." As she spoke, Wei Shuyu shouted coldly, "Everyone, kneel. Anyone who doesn't kneel will be treated as a mob and shot to death. Kneel." Instantly, a large group of imperial guards rushed out from all over the mountain and shouted angrily in unison. At this moment, all the citizens finally panicked. Above them, the imperial guards drew their bows even more. It was as if they would immediately shoot anyone who did not kneel. At this moment, among the people kneeling on the ground, someone lowered his head and shouted in horror, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, the imperial guards are killing people. Are you not going to do anything?" Whoosh! However, what awaited him was a cold arrow. This made all the citizens even more panicked. Wei Shuyu did not seem to see it. She continued to urge her horse and looked coldly at the crowd. "I'm sure all of you know what these people mean. I know that most of you have been bewitched, but I also know that many of you are purposely trying to create chaos and send you to your deaths. I'm not a murderous person. My name is Wei Shuyu, and I'm the captain of the Golden Guards. My father is Wei Zheng, and I'm sure you all know my father's name. I'll give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. Remember, I'll only say it once. If you know each other, as long as you tell me your home addresses and who else is in his family, I will let you go. After the imperial guards in the city investigate, they will let you go home. However, if you are still lucky, then I, Wei Shuyu, will use the authority of the Golden Guards to convict you of treason. Your Highness. May I ask how the crime of treason should be decided?" Wei Shuyu didn't even turn around. The bright silver spear in her hand was even colder. Li Qingxian said indifferently, 9 familial extermination." Hearing this, everyone was terrified. Among them, some could no longer sit still. They all stood up and reported their homes. I'm Wang Guden. I live at the foot of the 10-mile slope. There's a big chestnut tree at the door. My family only has me and my mother. My brother joined the army 3 years ago and hasn't come back yet. The one beside me is called Chen Erniu. He has a cow and 2 sisters. His father used to be a soldier too, but now he's a cripple." Wang Guden seemed to be scared out of his wits. As he spoke, he pulled the dark-skinned 13-year-old boy beside him, who was only wearing a loincloth, and kowtowed desperately. Wei Shuyu waved her hand. In an instant, 2 armored soldiers came forward and tied the 2 of them to a book. Then, they used arrows to nail a note to the 2 of them. Following the lead of these 2 people, more and more people also stepped forward and introduced themselves. Among the crowd, there were still some people who panicked. Although they were kneeling on the ground and trembling, their eyes were darting around, looking for an exit. However, they realized in despair that there were at least 1,000 imperial guards around them. Not far away, in the woods and beside the river, they spotted another person with sharp eyes. Qing Yao Jin. And behind him, there were tens of thousands of Chang and garrison soldiers. This time, they were completely flustered. The person on the treetop stared at the crowd with sharp eyes. The bow in his hand moved according to the movement of his eyes. At this moment, if anyone made the slightest movement, then, what should we do? In the crowd, there was a man who looked like a farmer. However, his face and arms were white outside of his clothes. He was not as dark as the Zhuang family. He used his leg to nudge the person next to him. That person trembled as if he did not hear anything. After a while, that person said hurriedly, "Quick, we can only take the poison now." We can't drag the family down. Okay, the two of them seemed to have discussed it beforehand. They slowly reached into their clothes. However, the moment they took out a packet of powder and were about to throw it into their mouths, whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, a few sharp whistling sounds made their souls fly out of their bodies. Puff, 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 puff. Followed by a few muffled sounds. The two of them were horrified to find that 4 arrowheads had penetrated their shoulder blades and thighs. They did not have the strength to move at all. And this was not the most important thing. At this moment, Wei Shuyu's ghostly voice sounded behind the two of them. Are you going to take the poison and commit suicide? Chapter 283. Hundreds of people were able to clean up the mess quickly. In less than 2 hours, more than 70 people had been picked out from the crowd of more than 700 people. What a terrifying number this was. It was these 70-odd people who had almost caused Cheng Yaojin to be branded with an indelible infamy. It was even a tragedy where his family would be exterminated. There was even something deeper. However, at this moment, Wei Shuyu waved her hand and ordered these people to be sent to the prison in Chang'an City to await the emperor's punishment. The rest of the people had either committed suicide by taking poison, or they were tied up and hung from a book. Wei Shuyu pulled out a sharp and narrow knife from her bosom and gently flicked the blade in her hand. She inspected the crowd. Are you saying? Or die? Or are you waiting for us to find out, and then you can wait for your family members to accompany you on your journey? Wei Shuyu. Since we've fallen, we'll admit it. Pfft. Without waiting for him to finish, the knife in Wei Shuyu's hand gently slit his neck. It was like cutting pork. He. Before that person could finish his words, only streams of blood were left, accompanied by gurgling sounds from his throat. The mournful sound made the people who were tied up tremble in fear. Speak. If anyone reveals the mastermind behind this matter, I guarantee that you and your family will be able to live out the rest of your life peacefully. Otherwise, you can try the interrogation methods of the Jianghu guards. Don't think that I don't know anything. You're backed by the Guanlong group, aren't you? When everyone heard this, their eyelids couldn't help but twitch. But that was all. If they still didn't know by now, then they would really be fools. Shuyu, take them back to the Supreme Court. At this moment, Cheng Yaojin urged his horse forward. He didn't even look at these people. He waved his hand and said, string them up one by one for Lao Tzu and drag them all the way back to Chang'an. Hearing this, Li Qingxian wanted to say something. But in the end, he didn't say it. Cheng Yaojin glanced at him and didn't say anything. With a wave of his hand, he ordered the tens of thousands of soldiers of the Chang'an garrison to guard these merchants in the woods. Then, he led the imperial guards back to Chang'an. On the way, Cheng Yaojin looked at the pale-faced Li Qingxian and asked, does the crown prince feel that our methods are too cruel? Yes. Uncle Cheng, since the matter has been investigated, why don't you give them a quick death? Why do you want to do this? Cheng Yaojin fell silent. He pointed at Wei Shuyu and said, Shuyu is a good kid. Have you ever thought that if you show even the slightest bit of mercy today, then you don't deserve to be the emperor? You are still too young to understand these things. Learn from your father and talk to brother Zhang Feng more. You will understand that this world is not as beautiful as you imagine it to be. You've heard it too. If my subordinates couldn't hold themselves back and killed these commoners today, and you happen to be here, can you imagine the consequences? Li Qingxian closed his eyes in pain. However, the insults those people said to Cheng Yaojin still flashed in his mind. If it were him, he would definitely order people to kill them. If you really want to kill them, then you have fallen into a trap. Cheng Yaojin's eyes flashed with horror. He continued, they are forcing us to act. Once we act, we will kill the commoners by mistake. The old man will also be punished for their crimes. Regardless of whether it is true or not, regardless of whether your father knows the old man's character, my Qing family will be destroyed. Do you know? Li Qingxian fell silent. At this time, if he still didn't understand, then he would be a fool. It was also at this time that Li Qingxian realized the treachery. He had always thought that the Guanlong group was just a group of merchants. However, after investigating yesterday, he was shocked to find out that the earliest incarnation of the Guanlong 8 great families was actually the Northern Army and a group of merchants who formed an alliance. After all these years of development, they had even infiltrated many people in the imperial court. Uncle Cheng, I understand now. It's good that you understand. In the future, learn more from your father. Actually, you don't understand your father. The atmosphere fell silent again. This was because they had already arrived at the city gate. A large group of people had gathered at the city gate. They had snatched the goods and were preparing to enter the city. At this time, they were cursing the guards on the city wall. When they saw Qing Yaojin and the rest, they surrounded them again. Qing Yaojin's eyes turned cold. He waved his hand and said, "Arrest all those who have goods in their hands." Li Qingxian was shocked. He hurriedly asked, "Uncle Cheng, these are commoners. You can't arrest them. And this is the city gate. If you arrest them, it will definitely cause a commotion." A commotion? Qing Yaojin smiled when he saw the imperial guards swarming forward. Do you know that the goods outside the city haven't decreased at all? Then tell me, where did these goods come from? Chapter 284. Li Qingxian was horrified to find that it was just as Qing Yaojin said. It seemed that the goods had always been handled by the bodyguards. Where did this large batch of goods come from? Moreover, the goods in the Shirley slope were all dry and not so wet. But what about the goods in these people's arms? They were all dripping with water. There was an even more horrifying thing that made Li Qingxian realize that this was a complete conspiracy. As early as noon, he had received a rumor that the ship was seriously damaged and all the goods were forced to move to the Shirley slope. At this time, in such hot weather, even if they were soaked in water, they would not be dripping with water. But what about the goods in these people's hands? They were all dripping with water. The Guanlong group's conspiracy was really vicious. Li Qingxian suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He did not know how many more conspiracies were waiting for him in Chang'an City. It was already like this outside the city. When he left the city, many people had already sneaked into the city. Then, inside the city, he did not dare to think about it. He only hoped that the people in the city were controlled. Was this a battle between two forces? Li Qingxian suddenly had a suspicion. He wondered what he would do if he was in charge of this matter. He could not think of it. That was the most terrifying thing. Just as Qing Yaojin said, he was too emotional and too indecisive. At this time, Qing Yaojin turned around and patted him on the shoulder. He sighed and said, "Born in the royal family, no one is born cold-blooded, but everyone's position is different. So, Qingxian, you have to quickly get used to your identity. Your identity is the crown prince. All the indecisiveness is holding you back and may even lead to the destruction of the Tang dynasty. So, quickly become stronger. After all, we are all old." Hearing that, Li Qingxian's expression suddenly changed. Looking at Qing Yaojin's fluttering hair under the golden helmet, it had already turned gray. Only then did he remember that his imperial father was also like this. Thank you, Uncle Cheng. I understand. Ha 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 ha. Let's go into the city. Qing Yaojin did not even turn his head. He smiled and waved his hand. Only then did the crowd slowly escort the hundreds of people into Chang'an. Smash smash smash. When the heavy city gates slowly opened, a loud noise could be heard. Qing Yaojin, who was wearing a mask, walked in front of the crowd with a long-handled battle axe in his hand. His entire body was emitting waves of murderous aura, causing those who were still at the city gates to be aghast. What's the situation? Look! Demon King Qing can't even take out his weapon. Heavens! Could it be that he killed all the people in the 10-mile slope? Look at the people behind their horses. F***ck. Why were they scurrying around like dumplings? Is this even something a human would do? Damn it, if Devil King Cheng doesn't do this, he doesn't deserve to be called Devil King Cheng. Damn it. Is this a rebellion? How dare he slaughter the people of the Tang dynasty in public? I'm afraid he's going to rebel. Behind Xing Yaojin, Wei Shuyu also put down her mask. Even Li Qingxian put on a veil. They were not afraid of these people, but of Zhang Feng. They were afraid that Zhang Feng would join in the crowd and see their faces. At this moment, someone in the crowd exclaimed, "Look at the one with the veil. He's the crown prince." Li Qingxian, the crown prince, dares to do it in broad daylight. Oh my god. What's going on? The commotion in the crowd started with a buzzing sound, but after everyone saw Li Qingxian, their voices suddenly rose a pitch, as if they were afraid that others wouldn't know that he was the crown prince. Li Qingxian did not even look at those people. He even treated them as if there were flies buzzing in his ears. When the crowd stepped into Chang'an City, Qing Yaojin pulled on the reins of his horse and waved his hand. In an instant, the general guarding the gate hurried over. "Let me ask you, did you send out an order to forbid all the citizens from leaving?" "Your Highness, General Cheng, this matter has already spread throughout Chang'an City. However, for some reason, these people are unwilling to leave." "Oh? Didn't you hear the order of the Imperial Guards?" Qing Yaojin waved the battle axe in his hand and glanced at the crowd coldly as he asked. However, no one answered him. "Very good. Very good. Your Highness, if it's you, how do you think these people should be dealt with if they are unwilling to return to their houses despite knowing that there is an imperial edict?" This was a test. Li Qingxian understood. His gaze swept across everyone's face, then he gave a fist salute and said, "Uncle Cheng, these people are not ordinary people." "Oh? Why do you say that?" Qing Yaojin's interest was piqued. "Look at these people. Although they seem to be wearing the ordinary clothes of commoners, look at their skin. It's not as dark as commoners' skin. This means that they have not been exposed to the sun much. As ordinary people, how can they not be exposed to the sun?" "That's right. Congratulations, Your Highness. You have an epiphany." Qing Yaojin gave a fist salute sincerely and asked again, "Do you think we should kill these people? Arrest them? Or release them?" "Arrest them." "Good. Guards. Capture these traitors for this general. In addition, investigate everyone in the city. Do not let any house go. Arrest all those who participated in the robbery outside the city." "Yes." Chapter 285. In Taiji Palace. Li Shimin listened to Li Qingxian and Qing Yaojin's report, but his expression did not change at all. It was as if he had already known all of this. Wei Zheng and the others present were the same. "I didn't expect that these people would be the first to make a move on Qing Yaojin. You are my right-hand man. For them to think of cutting you off from my hands first, it seems that these people have really put in a lot of effort into everything about me." Li Shimin took a deep breath and said, "Qing Aiqing, immediately secretly transfer 10,000 elite light cavalry from Longyu Dao, Tongguan, and other places, to wait outside the city. During this period of time, you must pay more attention." Qing Yaojin heard this and hurriedly knelt on the ground. "This general obeys the order. But Your Majesty, the Crown Prince is also involved in this matter." "I think it's fine. This is what I asked Qingxian to do. On one hand, he should know something. On the other hand, I also want to tell Guanlong that I am angry. Let's see if they are willing to stop." Everyone was silent. Wei Jing asked again, "Your Majesty, what do we do with the people we arrested today?" "Kill them. Investigate all of their criminal records for the crime of rebellion. If they don't have a criminal record, just put them on. After all, their butts are not clean. Tomorrow at noon, execute them at the gate of the imperial city. Also, put up the identities of each of them, as well as the names of their family members, word for word at the gate of the imperial city. Everyone heard this and felt a chill in their hearts. The emperor was really angry. However, this plan was really amazing. On one hand, it could intimidate Guanlong and his subordinates. On the other hand, it would let everyone see who these traitors were. The family members would be tortured by public opinion in the end. This would also let those who were prepared, as well as those who had already joined these forces, see that this was the result of going against the imperial family. At this moment, little Gizi hurried into the imperial study. He reported, "Your Majesty, news just came from the Vermilion Bird Gate. Some officials are preparing to jointly request an audience with Your Majesty because of the matter outside the city." "See me?" Li Shimin smiled. How could they not know what these people wanted to do? They wanted nothing more than to accuse him of oppressing the common people. They wanted nothing more than to accuse Cheng Yaojin of arbitrarily leading his troops and kidnapping the common people in broad daylight. Would he be afraid? Pass down my orders. From the entrance of Taiji Palace to the entrance of the imperial study, arrange for 100 people to be beaten. If anyone wishes to have an audience with me, they are to be beaten with the rod. After 100 strikes, they are to come and see me. Yes, little Gizi hurried out. Regarding this, no one in the imperial study asked who those people were. Was there a need to ask now? Other than the people from the Guanlong group, who else could come so quickly and appear here on time? 100 strikes. A normal person would be crippled after 60 strikes, let alone 100 strikes. Li Shimin didn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with Guanlong at this time. It wasn't time yet. If they really dared to do so at this time, then, he no longer cared about anything else. Daring to openly mutiny was a crime worthy of extermination. He, Li Shimin, had already given Guanlong a lot of face by doing this. Your Majesty, although we stopped these people today, it's inevitable that such things will happen in the future. This old minister thinks that it's better to have a foolproof plan. Otherwise, if it continues like this, then the imperial court, yes, Your Majesty, this can't go on. This old minister thinks that we should cut the Gordian knot and completely reorganize the imperial court. Or, as Brother Zhang Feng said, we should divert the disaster to the east and divert attention. In this way, as long as we open up the water channel for the cooperative and the caravan in Chang'an, then Guanlong's suppression of the imperial court will become meaningless. Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui hurriedly knelt and said. Li Shimin touched his chin, thought for a moment, and asked, "There are still 3 days before the retired emperor's birthday. I'll give them 3 days. If they still don't repent, then I'll really go north and personally see what the Guanlong group is doing." Li Shimin had had enough. This cooperative and the new business model are mutually beneficial. Your Guanlong group will also be bribed because of this, and I won't be too embarrassed. But do you really think that I'm a pushover? You want to take it all for yourself? You want to get your hands on the economic power of the Tang dynasty? Last time, when I removed the Minister of Works, it was already a warning to you. I didn't expect that this time, not only did you not understand the meaning of it, but you even went from bad to worse. Good. Since you want to fight, then do you think I'm afraid of you? Now, make 2 preparations. On the one hand, Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui, from today onwards, you two will thoroughly organize the details of all the good merchants in Chang'an. On the other hand, Zhang Sun Wuji, you and Wei Jing quickly investigate the disaster situation in Tubo, Tuyuhun, and the Turkic territory. If Tubo can wait, then I'll add fuel to the fire. I'll make him unable to sit still. The public opinion created by the Guanlong group this time has given me a good idea. Send it to these 3 countries as it is. I'd like to see how long they can wait. This minister obeys Your Majesty. Chapter 286. The ban was finally lifted. Chang'an City once again returned to its usual hustle and bustle. However, this hustle and bustle hid a lot of fear. Yesterday's incident left a deep impression on everyone. A group of rebels actually rioted right under the emperor's nose, tricking them into robbing the emperor's goods. What was this? This was a capital crime that would send them to hell. At this moment, the eyes of all the people in Jianghu city turned red. As they walked on the streets, their eyes seemed to be filled with something. They felt that everything they saw was a rebel. At this moment, those who were usually sloppy or those whose families were relatively well off could not sit still. They always felt that there was a pair of eyes staring at them from behind all the time. Tong Weifang was located in an ordinary house on the right side of the intersection of Changxing Market. On one side of the market, there was a dessert shop called Isan Dessert. This dessert shop was quite famous in Jianghu city. It was loved by the ladies of noble families and the people on the street. Every day, when the market opened, there would be a large group of children at the entrance. They would stare at the shop eagerly and sniff the smell of the desserts floating in the air from time to time. Every time this happened, a young maid in the shop would bring some broken desserts that could not be sold and distribute them to the crowd. Only then would the crowd disperse in satisfaction. However, today, Isan Dessert shop was not open. Why? Because yesterday, the little maidservant picked up a hairpin from who knows where. Moreover, it was an emerald green hairpin. It was said to be from Jinla. It was one of the goods this time. At this moment, everyone in the house panicked. The owner of the house was surnamed Zhang. He was an honest businessman and had a kind personality. However, when he found out about this, he went to the yamen with his maidservant. However, it had been 2 hours and no one had come back. The family head's wife was anxious. This time, it was really a big deal. She heard that a lot of people were arrested yesterday. If something happened to the master, what would happen to the family? Just as the family head's wife did not know what to do, an old woman in Zhang Mansion whispered to Zhang Lushi, "Grandmother, don't worry. Have you forgotten that old Madame Wang came to propose marriage a few days ago? That old elementary scholar is experienced and knowledgeable. He's not a bad choice. I've also heard from the people in the streets that the future son-in-law is a great philanthropist, a great talent." Zhang Liushi's face was full of worry. "Io, old woman Shui, can't you just say what you want to say? Right now, even old master doesn't know what's going on. Will he be punished? Why are you talking about this?" The old woman said with a smile, "Grandma, you've wronged me. We are all women, so we don't have anyone to make the decision. However, if we ask the old scholar to look for the son-in-law, on the one hand, we can see if the son-in-law can handle this matter properly, and see if he is really talented. When the time comes for the young miss to marry into the family, you can rest assured, right? On the other hand, I heard that young master, that's enough. We haven't even started dating yet, and you're already calling him son-in-law?" Although Zhang Lushi was scolding, she glanced at the ear in the crack of the door in the inner room and felt as if she had eaten honey in her heart. "Well, quickly go find the old scholar and tell him everything about the family. As a matchmaker, if he doesn't do his best, then the old scholar will miss my daughter." "Mother. This. I mean, can you let Shui, go with you? It's not convenient for me to go out, but Shui, can help us to see if that Zhang Feng is really like what the rumors say." At this moment, a woman in a pink gauze dress, whose face was as red as a peeled egg, hurried out of the inner room and said timidly. The woman's name was Zhang Yuyao. She was very beautiful and charming, and all the neighbors were praising her. She was more beautiful than the person in the painting, and even more attractive than that Hu Ji. Her big eyes were watery, and people couldn't help but fall into them. Her body was not plump, but not thin. Although she was only 17 years old, she should be quite perky, more perky than ordinary girls. Because of this, since she was 12 years old, Zhang Yuyao's father and mother strictly forbade her to take a step out of the house. Unless it was necessary, she was not allowed to take a step out of the door. Therefore, she could recite the 4 books and 5 classics, and the female rules written by the empress. If she went out, the door of the Zhang family would be kicked down, not to mention that there were 4 big devils in Chang'an City. If she was targeted by them, how could she survive? But a few days ago, when Grandma Chui went out to buy groceries, she happened to chat with the old scholar. The old scholar tricked her and used a piece of jerky to trick her into telling him about Zhang Yuyao's situation. Then, there was the matter of Grandma Wang's visit. At this time, Zhang Yuyao knew about Zhang Feng. Both families were surnamed Zhang. At first, Zhang Yuyao's father refused, but after learning about Zhang Feng's deeds and the old scholar's recitation of the poem Zhang Feng had recited, Zhang Yuyao's father agreed as if he was possessed. These few lines of the poem were also heard by Zhang Yuyao, who was hiding behind the door and eavesdropping. She was instantly shocked. After learning that Zhang Feng was only 20 years old and was unusually handsome, she couldn't help but admire him. At this time, when she saw that her mother was going to test Zhang Feng, she couldn't help but jump out. Zhang Lushir smiled bitterly. A grown girl can't be kept at home. Okay, let Chui go with her. Remember, bring some snacks. Chapter 287. Zhang Feng was very free. He was so bored that his balls hurt. Other than fooling around with Guzi and the others from time to time, he had nothing else to do. As for Chang'an City, forget it. He was too lazy to go for a stroll. He had just cleaned up the river. The stench was comparable to piling up a large house of snail powder. One smell would make him feel like he was in heaven. How would he dare to go out? Even if it was his favorite crooked tree, he was too lazy to sleep under the shade of the tree. Now, he was hiding in the backyard and drinking wine. It was quite beautiful. Most importantly, as soon as he went out, he would see Lao He sighing and scolding him indirectly. He said that he was 20 years old, but he still didn't find a wife and start a family. He was like a wild child who didn't want to make progress. Zhang Feng's ears hurt when he heard that. He might as well hide here and enjoy the peace and comfort. But thinking about it, Zhang Feng felt a toothache again. He had a lot of skills, but the damn system threw a tavern to Lao Tzu at the beginning and then disappeared? Damn it. What did it want Lao Tzu to do? He didn't dare to leave. What if this was a task from the system? But if he didn't leave, damn it, how long would he have to wait? The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He wished he could drag the system out and give it a good beating. He was the man who would always sit side by side with the emperor in the future. How long would he have to wait? However, Zhang Feng took a big gulp of wine and stopped being angry with himself. Why was he angry with him? After thinking for a while, Zhang Feng stopped thinking about it. Instead, he began to think about all the things that had happened recently. Recently, he had been involved in a lot of important matters in the imperial court. He couldn't figure out what the emperor was planning. With his supernatural power, he must have known about his existence. But until now, he didn't say anything. That wasn't right. Could it be that there were too many spies like Guanlong and Tubo, so he was secretly protecting me? So he didn't expose me? Zhang Feng's back was drenched in cold sweat. He thought of the nest of Turkic spies next door. Dispatching the golden guards in the middle of the night, was this domineering? Or, Zhang Feng didn't dare to think further. It was better to stay a little further away from that foul place. At the very least, he had to wait for the emperor to settle all his affairs before he could enter the imperial court as an official. Otherwise, before Lao Tzu could enter the imperial court as an official, he would be King killed. At that time, he would have nowhere to cry. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng secretly made up his mind. In the future, if there was such an important matter in the imperial court, he didn't care who it was. In any case, whatever he could think of, the emperor had already thought of it. Fengzi. At this moment, a sound came from outside the door. When this voice rang out, it gave Zhang Feng a huge fright. The wine pot in his hand also fell to the ground, clang. There was a crisp sound. Now, there was no way he could dodge. Zhang Feng stood up, speechless. He shouted weakly, "Coming, coming. You're rushing me." He didn't need to think to know that the person who came was the old elementary scholar. At the very least, no one would be able to imitate the old elementary scholar's voice. Opening the door, as expected, there was an old elementary scholar dressed in a gray robe standing at the door. However, behind him stood a girl who looked to be about 15 years old. The girl was dressed in a servant's uniform. At this moment, Guboli was waiting with a food box hanging on her neck. Her large eyes were looking at Zhang Feng from head to toe. Old elementary scholar, are you an old cow eating young grass? Hearing this, the old elementary scholar's face stiffened. You little imp. Serve old man some wine. Bring some good wine. Oh right, bring some good dishes too. The old elementary scholar glared at him, then walked around Zhang Feng, entered the small tavern, and sat down at the head of the table. The servant took the opportunity to sit beside the old elementary scholar. Without saying a word, she stared at Zhang Feng, which made Zhang Feng's hair stand on end. Alright, wait a moment, I just made a pot of tiger bone soup. But this young lady, don't worry about her. She's here to thank me for writing a letter for her and finding her family. By the way, this old man is tired of the things in this basket. You're lucky. This is good stuff from Isan Pastry Shop. Isan Pastry Shop. Hearing this, Zhang Feng understood. Are they here for an inspection? Fine. My performance is a little bad. I heard that the Zhang family is not a famous family, but it is a little famous in Chang'an City. The daughter of the Zhang family is as beautiful as a fairy. But you should at least come in person, right? Why did you send a servant girl? Lao Tzu was a good young man from the 21st century. Marriage was such an important event. You should at least give me a few days to date, right? You're already forcing me to marry? Damn it, King know what's behind your back. Is it ugly or beautiful? Zhang Feng did not escape the description of beautiful women in the Tang dynasty. Voluptuous, that's a fat girl. I'm as skinny as a chick. If I marry a fat girl who weighs 300 pounds, then, Zhang Feng shuddered at the thought. This marriage must be cancelled. However, just as Zhang Feng was thinking about how to cancel the marriage, he was shocked to find that old Ho and old Madame Wang were at the entrance of the tavern again. Chapter 288. Old He and old Madame Wang knew Chui. After meeting each other, they greeted each other. Old He stared at Zhang Feng. Feng, is this how you treat your guests? You don't even pour a cup of tea. Uncle He looked at Chui with a smile and took out a white clay pot from the counter. It was the last bit of tea leaves that Zhang Feng had stir-fried himself. Zhang Feng closed his eyes. He couldn't bear to look at it. The tea leaves of the Tang dynasty were all foam. What did the people here call it? He threw the tea leaves into the pot and boiled them for 2 hours. Then, he hugged the big bowl and drank all of it in one go. The taste. It was no different from Chinese medicine. No. It was slightly better than Coptis chinensis. His tea leaves were all collected from outside the city using his connections and money. He had needed almost a caddy of tea leaves himself. Looking at the big handful of tea leaves in Old He's hands and the old scholar's eyes, Zhang Feng knew that he had completely given up on the pot of tea leaves. She angrily chopped a braised chicken into pieces in the kitchen, making loud noises. Then, he grabbed a big handful of salt and sprinkled it. You're begging for death. A moment later, Zhang Feng slowly walked out of the kitchen with a large pot of stew containing all kinds of meat. Then, he gave everyone a small bowl of tiger bone soup and kept silent. What else could he say? Looking at the wine jar on the table and the tea leaves scattered everywhere, his heart ached. Ahem. The old scholar showed his generosity at this time. He said, "Everyone, let's eat. This little bastard is feeling sorry for his tea leaves today." Old man has heard of this before. I don't know if the palace has it, but I'm sure there's no such thing outside. And this meat, smell it. If Miss Zhang comes over, she definitely won't suffer any hardships. With Feng Zi's skills, he'll be able to earn a lot of money. Come on, let's eat. Little Chui had long forgotten what the old scholar had said. His hands were trembling as he held the wine bowl, and his cheeks were flushed red. Staring at the fragrant meat in the basin, she had long forgotten everything. After all, she lived in Xiang City with the sisters Zhang Yuyao. Usually, she could eat whatever the young miss ate. But compared to today's basin of meat, everything she ate before was pig swill. As for old lady Wang, there was no need to even mention her. At this moment, he was staring at the meat in the bowl and had already pounced on it. Old he was still all right. At the very least, they had been following Zhang Feng around for a period of time. Moreover, they were also considered as Zhang Feng's elders here. They could not lose face. Seeing that Xiao Chui wasn't eating, the old scholar personally picked up a piece of pig intestine or chicken neck and threw it into Xiao Chui's bowl. Miss Chui, don't be so courteous. This will be your home in the future. Try Zhang Feng's cooking. When we go back, I'll ask Fengzi to bring some back for Miss and Mr. Zhang Feng. Okay. Thank you, old scholar. Thank you, young master. As she spoke, Xiao Chui imitated old lady Wang and ate. The old scholar and old he looked at each other and then laughed. Come, let's drink. Ignoring Zhang Feng's twitching mouth and ignoring the two of them also started drinking by themselves. A bowl of wine went down their stomachs. Old he sighed. Sigh. What a waste of such good wine. It would be great if Mr. Zhang Feng could try it. Isn't that so? Mr. Zhang Feng, by the way, your father-in-law is in a lawsuit. There's still no news about it until now. What does it have to do with me? Zhang Feng pursed his lips and tore a piece of chicken breast meat, minding his own business. However, when the meat entered his mouth, he suddenly wondered if he had put sugar or salt in it just now. Why did it taste different from before? Was it more delicious? Zhang Feng couldn't help but stick his finger into the bowl, dipped it in a bit of thick soup, and licked it in his mouth. Instantly, his head hurt even more. No wonder they ate without caring about their image. Lao Tzu wanted to prick them to death, but instead, he brought out the freshness. Zhang Feng couldn't eat anymore. This meal wasn't even for eating. Zhang Feng pretended not to know and asked, Old scholar, since you're here today, let's get straight to the point. Okay. I'm waiting for the wine. Now, there's something I need your opinion on. The old scholar saw that and didn't hide it anymore. He said directly, Your father-in-law, this matter hasn't even been set in stone yet. You should at least let me see the girl, right? Zhang Feng directly interrupted the old scholar. The old scholar didn't mind. Fine. It's like this. Do you still remember what happened yesterday? One of the maidservants in Zhang Mansion had gotten a jade hairpin from somewhere. Moreover, it was one of the goods this time. Therefore, shopkeeper Zhang was very scared. He sent it directly to the yamen, but it's been almost 4 hours and she hasn't returned, not even a trace of news. So, the Zhang family is out of ideas, so they want you to come up with an idea to see what's going on? Zhang Feng frowned slightly when he heard this. This matter is a little difficult. The servant girl of the rich merchant got this jade hairpin from somewhere, and it was spread around the yamen yesterday. This is going to be difficult. The old scholar and the others heard this. Their expressions changed immediately. Fengzi, you have to think of a way to solve this matter. That's your father-in-law. Zhang Feng was speechless. How many times had he said it? Nothing was set in stone yet, and he was already addressing him as father-in-law? Zhang Feng couldn't help but stare at the old scholar angrily and roar in his heart. Why do men have to make things difficult for other men? Chapter 289. Zhang Feng was speechless. If it weren't for the fact that the old scholar was old, he would have beaten him up. Damn it, there was nothing going on. He hadn't even seen the girl yet, and he was already calling her father-in-law? He seriously suspected that the old Xianxia had taken a fancy to the servant girl in the mansion. Zhang Feng couldn't help but glance at Cui Er. Then, he looked at the old scholar. There was no need to rush. He actually saw a little similarity between the two of them. Could this girl be the old scholar's illegitimate daughter? In ancient times, there was an unwritten rule. When a young lady got married, her servant girl had to accompany her as a concubine. Could this girl be the old scholar's illegitimate daughter? Otherwise, why would he care so much about her? The old scholar sat and waited. He didn't see Zhang Feng speak. Instead, he saw Zhang Feng's eyes darting between him and Cui Er. Not only that, his face revealed an expression of understanding. The old scholar was so angry that he raised his chopsticks and scolded him. He said that it was Zhang Feng who ruined his reputation. He clearly thought that Zhang Feng was overflowing with talent, but he didn't say anything. He even wasted his time here. He couldn't help but feel that it was a pity. He thought that if he could find a wife for Zhang Feng, it would make Zhang Feng feel better. However, he didn't expect that Zhang Feng would be so cruel and unscrupulous, treating his good intentions as ill intent. In an instant, old lady Wang, old He, and even Zhu Zi's parents, who were squatting at the door, couldn't sit still. They surrounded Zhang Feng and scolded him. Zhang Feng was so embarrassed that he felt that he had wronged everyone. After a long time, the pot of meat was turned upside down. The 5 jars of wine also made everyone dizzy and shut their mouths. At this time, the old scholar dizzily patted Zhang Feng's shoulder and talked about business. Feng Zi, you have to worry about your father-in-law. I know you know the 4 great demon kings. Hurry up and find them and think of a way. So this was the old scholar's plan. Zhang Feng suddenly understood. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, all right, all right, all right. I'll go now. I must rescue shopkeeper Zhang today. You guys hurry up and leave today. I'll let Zi go later. Invite them over, okay? Zhang Feng directly asked him to leave. However, he knew that this wasn't a big deal. Since he hadn't returned yet, he was probably cooperating with the Yamen to find out who this jade hairpin belonged to. He would definitely return safe and sound today. He had seen the notice too. Even the Yamen had said that these things were not goods from the treasury. In other words, they were not goods transported out of the royal city. Moreover, these things were worth at most 100 copper coins. Who the hell would check for you? If you wanted, you could buy a few carriages in Chang'an City. Therefore, shopkeeper Zhang was only squatting in the Yamen symbolically to cooperate with the investigation. Finally, he sent away those people who were picking their teeth as they walked. Along the way, he also gave them some braised meat and a small jar of good wine. Only then did he send this group of demons away. However, what made Zhang Feng angry was that Cui Er, who was leaving, actually touched his hand and stuffed a piece of paper into his palm. He didn't know if it was intentional or not. Looking at the beautiful and hurried handwriting on the piece of paper, Zhang Feng suddenly had the illusion that he was in a middle school puppy love. I don't know you. I'm just curious today, so I sent Cui Er to meet you. Please forgive me for my rudeness. Zhang Mansion, Yuyao. Yuyao. Zhang Yuyao. And a talented woman. Zhang Feng's headache became bigger. He didn't know if it was intentional or not, but Cui Er was still at the door and didn't leave. She seemed to be waiting for a reply. Okay, Zhang Feng was also interested. This girl is interesting. She has some guts. He couldn't help but feel like he had found his first love. He simply wrote a poem on a piece of paper on the counter. Song Dynasty poet Lu Yong's Phoenix perches on the parasol as a return gift. Leaning against the dangerous building, the wind is gentle. Looking at spring sorrow, the sky darkens. In the afterglow of the grass-colored smoke, who would be dispirited without words? To make shuang kuang to drunk. To drink and sing, forced music is tasteless. My belt is getting loose, but I don't regret it, I'm haggard for her. He wanted to see if Zhang Yuya would reply with another poem. And most importantly, he wanted to shut the old scholar and the others' mouths. Otherwise, he would go crazy if he did this all day. When he folded the piece of paper into the shape of 1,000 paper cranes and handed it to Cui, the old scholar and the others who were hiding outside the door laughed and left. Zhang Feng could finally breathe a sigh of relief. He slumped on the chair and fell into a deep sleep. He felt like he hadn't slept for 8 lifetimes. However, just as Zhang Feng was about to fall asleep, at the corner of the street, Cui carefully opened the paper crane with a red face. Under the gaze of old he and the others, the old scholar slowly read the poem. In an instant, the old scholar held the piece of paper in his hands and slapped old he on the shoulder with an excited look on his face. It's done. The marriage is done. Ha ha ha. What a good, I'm haggard for her. Good poem. Good thing. Chapter 290. In the June sky, there were more locusts than mosquitoes. In the sky, they kept circling and opening their mouths ferociously, swallowing everything they encountered. At this moment it was noon on the streets of Chang'an, but there were basically not many people walking on the streets. Most of them were hiding at home to enjoy the cool air. Some of them were squatting under the shade of the trees in 2s and 3s, flapping their straw fans. Zhang Feng was also hiding in the courtyard and refused to go out. It was not for any other reason. It was because Zhang Feng used the wooden board that he had changed previously and called a few carpenters to build a windmill according to his request. It was the kind of paper windmill that he played with when he was young. However, it was replaced with a wooden shaft. Then, large palm leaf fans made of whole palm leaves were inserted into the wooden shaft. Under Guzi's strenuous shaking, it brought a hint of coolness. Beside him, Zhu Zi's sister, steamed bun, and a large group of black children stared at Zhang Feng with their big eyes as he told them stories. Zhang Feng was tired of talking. In an instant, Zhu Zi would put an iron pot by Zhang Feng's mouth and let him take a sip. Then, Zhang Feng would exhale happily and eat the tiger jerky that steamed bun brought to him. Then, he would tell everyone happily again. He was tired of talking. Then, the jerky that he placed beside the reclining chair would become the children's delicacies. Guzi was very loyal. He did not participate in the battle to snatch the food. Instead, he hugged the handle of the windmill and refused to let go. This was the mission given to him by big brother Zhang Feng. Without Zhang Feng's orders, he would not teach it. Noon came to an end just like that. When the groups of words were fighting with the locusts in the air, Zhang Feng woke up. He looked at his arm and saw that there was not a single bump. The children in the courtyard did not make any noise either. Seeing him get up, Zhu Zi roared, "Stand up!" Instantly, all the children stood up in unison. "Hello, big brother Zhang Feng." "Good, good, good." "He he he. Come, let's not tell stories in the afternoon. I'm tired. Let's play a game, okay?" Zhang Feng didn't care whether the crowd agreed or not. He pulled out a wooden box from under the recliner. The tinkling sounds from inside instantly attracted the children's attention. As he spoke, Zhang Feng opened the box. There was a hidden compartment in the box, and there was a rolling steel column. Beside it was a string of sheep tendons tied to a stick. It was the only thing that was exposed outside the box. At this moment, Zhang Feng smirked. He pointed at the numbers in the box and said, "This is from 1 to 5, which means 1 is the smallest. If any of you can continuously eject marbles into this slot of 5, Big Brother will reward you with a gift, okay?" "All right." Although the children didn't understand pinball machines, when they heard Zhang Feng say that there was a gift, they couldn't help but be so excited that their eyes turned red. It was the first time Zhang Feng took the initiative to give them a gift. They really wanted to know what the gift was. Zhang Feng also taught them how to play in front of the children. Guzi also stretched his neck to take a look. Look. Pull this stick, pull it to the side of the wooden box, and then let go. The marbles will stick out. Just like this. As he spoke, Zhang Feng fiercely ejected the marbles. However, God didn't give him an eye. He wanted to show off for once, but he messed up. The marbles actually landed on one of the boxes. The children burst into laughter. Zhang Feng was anxious. Again. Just now doesn't count. Big brother Zhang Feng is shameless. What's shameless? I'm talking about 5 times per person. After 5 times, after everyone has played, the winner will be selected to participate in the second round. Zhu Zi and especially Steamed Bun's face were full of disbelief. Zhang Feng pretended not to see and ejected the marbles again. This time, the marbles landed on 2. Zhang Feng was anxious. Again. 1. Again. At the end of the 5th time, he finally threw the marble into the grid of 5 while praying for it to happen. Alright, have you all seen it? This thing, let alone you all, even I can't hit all the marbles. So, all of you, line up and have fun. Alright. If anyone can play well, I'll give him a braised chicken. Among this group of people, besides Guzi, Zhu Zi was the tallest and strongest. Of course, he was the first to come. After 5 tries, he didn't exceed 3. The rest of the people were excited. Like birds, they chattered in front of the pinball machine, playing happily. Even Guzi couldn't resist the temptation in the end and joined in. Zhang Feng looked at the children, stood up unsteadily, and stretched. However, he accidentally saw that Li Shimin was standing behind the curtain, staring at the children and laughing. Oh, Lao Li is here. You're alone. Li Shimin waved his hand, not intending to disturb the children's fun. After entering the pub, Li Shimin looked Zhang Feng up and down and asked, Brother Zhang Feng, since you like children so much, I heard that the neighbor arranged a marriage for you. It's the daughter of Yisan pastry shop. Why don't you marry her earlier and have a few more children? Chapter 291. Li Shimin had actually been there for a long time. Just as Zhang Feng was telling this group of children a story, he arrived. But he didn't disturb Zhang Feng and the children. He also liked the story that Zhang Feng just told, especially the story of Zhu Yingtai turning into a butterfly, which made him deeply shocked. In the end, the pinball machine appeared, which made him frown slightly. Once this thing was opened, it would be a gambling device. Although Li Shimin also saw a slight business opportunity, since it was Zhang Feng's product, there was no problem at all, and he also saw a profit margin from it. For some reason, Li Shimin's mind was now full of business principles. Maybe he learned this from Zhang Feng, or maybe it was because he was short of money now. When Zhang Feng heard this, he was a little uncomfortable, and he stared at Li Shimin and said, I say, Lao Li, are you also here to laugh at me? What the hell is this? You tell me, I haven't even seen the girl's face, and you've already arranged it for me? You should at least let me see what the girl looks like, right? You tell me, what kind of logic is this? I haven't even agreed, and you've already arranged it for me? Zhang Feng complained, and Li Shimin just laughed and shook his head. I say, brother Zhang Feng. I don't know what kind of skills you learned after leaving your hometown, but you can't have this kind of thinking. Our ancestors once taught us that the parents' orders and the matchmaker's words should be carried out. Although your parents are no longer around, I still envy your neighbors. It's a good thing that they are worried about you. Besides, that old scholar looks like he's been through a lot. With his foresight, why are you afraid? I advise you to make some preparations. Prepare a decent betrothal gift, and then settle the marriage. Zhang Feng heard this and his face turned black. Hey! I say, Lao Li, are you also here to be a lobbyist? No. Li Shimin held back his laughter. He looked at Zhang Feng and said, "Actually, I've heard of the daughter of the Zhang family. Her beauty is not worse than those concubines in the palace. She is even prettier than them. Do you know the Empress's rules? I heard that girls can recite it backwards. Marrying you is not a disgrace to you." "No, no." Zhang Feng shook his head repeatedly. "It's not even close yet." "Oh right, how did you know about this? Could it be that you were also sent here by the old scholar?" "No, it was just a coincidence yesterday. Old Cheng's son went to the government office to handle some matters and happened to meet shopkeeper Zhang. When he was chatting with him, he heard about this matter, so Tai Niu went back to tell his father. Ha ha ha, old Sheng might have already started preparing a congratulatory gift for you at home. You know everything?" Zhang Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "Yes. I know everything. But you don't have to worry. Shopkeeper Zhang is fine. He was just drinking with Tai Niu and missed the time. He went back last night." Was Zhang Feng concerned about this? Not at all. What the hell was he worried about? He just felt that he would not have the face to meet old Sheng and the others in the future. What the hell was this? Damn the feudal mindset. Why were girls not allowed to go out on the streets? Why did they have to listen to the matchmaker when it came to marriage? What kind of logic was this? Oh right. Li Shimin saw that Zhang Feng did not want to talk about this matter. He curiously pursed his lips and looked at the noise outside the curtain. He asked, "You like these children very much?" "More or less. I'm so bored that my balls hurt. I went to the old scholar and the others. They always follow me around and talk about marriage. I can only find children to play with. You know the old saying, a man has to start a career before starting a family. Do you think the old scholar doesn't understand this principle? He's really old and muddle-headed." Enough, enough. Li Shimin was speechless. However, she rolled her eyes and asked, "I saw you telling them stories, but in the end, they are just the children of slaves. They can't read and will definitely be slaves in the future. Why don't you teach them how to read?" "Too lazy," Zhang Feng said bluntly. "Lao Tzu will enter the palace in the future. How can he have the time to teach them how to read? Last time I asked the old scholar. If he was willing, I would put in the money and effort to set up a school for him. That old man refused. Let me guess, will I do it?" Li Shimin curled his lips. He did not believe Zhang Feng's nonsense. He had seen Zhang Feng teach a dog called Zhuzi and steamed bun how to read. Moreover, those children were holding black charcoal and drawing on the streets. It was hard not to notice. Li Shimin did not notice anything before. But when he came today, an idea bloomed in his mind. Then, he mysteriously moved closer to Zhang Feng and asked, "Brother Zhang Feng, can I discuss something with you?" "What's the matter?" Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin suspiciously. Looking at his smirk, he was definitely up to no good. Li Shimin rubbed his hands and said slowly, "Why don't you build a school? I'll buy a house. I can even build one now." "Not going. You, Lao Li, must be up to no good, right?" Chapter 292. Li Shimin pulled a long face. "How can you say that? Aren't I thinking for your sake? Can't you listen to me for once?" Fine, fine, fine. You're awesome. Go ahead." Zhang Feng begged for mercy and allowed Li Shimin to continue. He wanted to see what kind of fart Li Shimin was holding back. Let him teach. Furthermore, they were a bunch of wild children who didn't know anything. Forget it. The Li family is rich and powerful. You can afford to hire a teacher. If you want to do good, go ahead and do it. It's like this. Aren't you going to be an official in the imperial court in the future? If you do this, not only will you gain a high reputation in Chang and city, but you will also gain the recognition of Confucianism. In the future, even if you enter the imperial court, won't the emperor think highly of you? This, Zhang Feng hesitated. In the future, he would indeed enter the imperial court as an official. However, it was too troublesome to run an academy. Moreover, he could not even pass the imperial college's test. How could he do it? Moreover, how could he teach those brats alone? Now that Old Li had brought this up, it must be because he was still thinking about how he had tricked Li Gan. This was unacceptable. This was unacceptable. He would not die of exhaustion, but he would definitely die of anger. He was only 20 years old. At the thought of those teachers in the future, each and every one of them, Zhang Feng could not help but feel goosebumps all over his body. Seeing this, Li Shimin hurriedly said, I know you're thinking that there will be too many people and you won't be able to handle it alone, right? You don't want this. It's not that. Lao Li, have you thought about it? This matter is not as simple as you think. Have you thought about the Imperial College? Will the Imperial College allow such a thing to appear under its nose? Moreover, you know my temperament. The things I teach are all things that are different from this era. Why don't we just chat and brag? Why do you have to bring this matter to that? Once this matter is settled, I don't think I'll be able to wait until I enter the Imperial Court as an official. I'll be killed by those old fogies in the Imperial Court. Lao Li, you're setting me up. Li Shimin was stunned. Previously, his plan was too perfect. Moreover, he was also eager to lure out the people from the Guanlong group. He also wanted to clean up the Imperial Court. However, if Zhang Feng opened an academy, he would spend a lot of money to select the world's elites and then put them in Zhang Feng's academy. This way, he would only need a year to clean up all those things in the Imperial Court. At that time, he would have a replacement. At that time, he would truly be able to enjoy life. Those pedantic people in the Imperial Court, as well as the people from the Guanlong group, would be like flies buzzing in his ears as long as he didn't get rid of them. He was annoyed. Brother Zhang Feng. Don't worry about this. Aren't we in love with Lord Zhangsun now? Moreover, we have a little relationship with the Imperial Court now. Don't worry about the Imperial College. Since I, Lao Li, dared to say it, I'll definitely settle this matter for you. Let me ask you one question. Are you going to do it or not? This is a chance for you to soar to the top. It's not that I don't want to do it. Zhang Feng spread his hands. In fact, he was also a little tempted. However, when he thought of the Guanlong group, his head hurt. Lao Li, I don't know if you know that most of the people in the Imperial College are Guanlong's people. What do you think I'm doing? I'm destroying their foundation. What do people hate the most in life? It's nothing more than seizing other people's family property, killing their parents, brothers, wives, and children. However, in the Imperial Court, I'm destroying their career. As long as this matter is exposed, both of us will be finished. How can this be? Li Shimin was also anxious. Zhang Feng still had his misgivings. He hurriedly said, You don't know. Last night, when we were drinking with Lord Zhangsun, I knocked him over with a jar of good wine. Guess what? He revealed a secret. The emperor is going to make a move on Guanlong's people. If you set up an academy at this time, you'll definitely attract the emperor's attention. Think about it, what are you doing? You're helping the emperor. Moreover, you've helped him so much before. Will he not care about your safety? Let's not talk about anything else. As long as I talk to my connections in the Imperial Court, they can ensure your safety. What do you think? I won't do it. No matter what you say, I won't go. Zhang Feng shook his head like a rattledrum. However, he was stunned. That's not right. Lao Li, are you trying to set me up again? For the first time, Zhang Feng realized that Lao Li's mouth was actually so good at talking. Previously, he was the one who tricked Lao Li, but now, he was being tricked by Lao Li? How could this be? Li Shimin was stunned when he heard this. But who was he? After thinking about it, he instantly understood what was going on. He smiled and patted Zhang Feng on the shoulder. "Brother. I'm rich now, but when I think about your future, I can't sleep all night. So I thought about it with Old Wei and the others, and after seeing it today, I thought of this idea. Think about it, if we can help you suppress the matter of Guanlong, would you do it? On one hand, it can accumulate your reputation. When the time comes, if you can obtain the recognition of the Great Confucian before entering the imperial court and become a Great Confucian scholar, even the 5 surnames and 7 hopes, as well as the Guanlong group, will have to think about your weight. How about it? Do you want to do it? This. Chapter 293. Zhang Feng was a little hesitant. If Laoli could really get Zhang Sun Wuji to take action to ensure his safety, and if the emperor was really going to take action against Guanlong, then, this could be done. Right now, the attitude of the 5 families and the 7 hopes was still unclear. That was to say, the 5 families and the 7 hopes didn't really want to shed all pretense of cordiality with the imperial court. Then, if it was just Guanlong, and the emperor was really prepared to make a move, wouldn't that mean that no one would notice his little library? As for the Great Confucian, Zhang Feng was confident. He could just pull out something from his memories and he would be able to take care of them. If it really didn't work, then Lao Tzu could recite all the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty. Let's see if anyone could take it. The more he thought about it, the more the light in Zhang Feng's eyes burned. As long as he became a Great Confucian, even if he entered the palace in the middle of the night, no one would dare to stop him. The title of a generation of literati, in this era, would allow him to do whatever he wanted. Thinking about it, Zhang Feng felt excited. Asking Li Shimin, after seeing the passion in Zhang Feng's eyes, finally let go of the worry in his heart. In his opinion, this time, the bluff was successful. Zhang Feng agreed. Sure enough. At this moment, Zhang Feng slammed the table and said with excitement in his eyes, "Laoli, this time we'll do it. But the premise is to ensure our safety. After all, Guanlong's power is too great. With our current status, he can crush us with his little finger. Don't worry about this." Li Shimin patted Zhang Feng's shoulder. "I heard from Lord Zhangsun about this matter last night. The emperor is already planning for this matter." "Who is the emperor?" "That's the emperor. You also said that the emperor can think of anything that you can think of. Do you think the emperor will let such a thing happen? And right under our noses?" "Good, good, good. With your words, our Zhang Feng is relieved. But let me say this first. You don't even know how to read a single word, so don't bother me. If you can find a teacher, it would be best if you can invite the old Xiaotsai over." "I understood. Li Shimin patted Zhang Feng and said with a smile, "Do you think I don't know you? He is so lazy that he is famous in Chang'an. You only care about those who are talented and intelligent, right? That's enough. Just keep this matter in your heart. Do you think anyone is qualified to learn it? Then he'll have to ask the Lord Jiangsu's Ministry of Justice first. Moreover, when the time comes to set up the academy, you will be the one to set all the rules. I know you have a lot of bad habits." Hearing this, Zhang Feng heaved a deep sigh of relief. But at the same time, he was also thinking about how to make this matter perfect. After all, if he wanted to do something, he had to do it well. Just thinking about this identity was exciting. He would not have to kneel when he saw the emperor. This was the power of a great scholar. With a wave of his hand, all the students in the world would respond. When he stood at the imperial city gates, a large group of students wearing white student robes would kneel on both sides of the road and shout his name in unison. At that time, he would be able to swagger around the imperial city with girls in his arms. Just thinking about it was exciting. However, Zhang Feng knew that all this was just what Lao Li had said to him when he saw him playing with the children, and what he said to Lao Xiao last time. Lao Li must have heard it and brought it back to him. This was not the purpose of his visit this time. By the way, Lao Li, why are you here this time? Can't I come for a visit if there's nothing? Li Shimin minded his own business and went to get a jar of wine. He picked up a bag of tiger jerky from the counter and said, "Tiger jerky. Brother, you are so unlucky. I've been here for so long, and you don't intend to take out such good stuff for me to try? Didn't I forget? You're always talking about this and that." Zhang Feng felt a little wronged. Li Shimin opened the oiled paper package. In an instant, a spicy and peppercorn smell filled his nose, making his appetite, which had no appetite during this period of time, salivate leisurely. The jerky was only 2 fingers wide and as long as a chopstick. It was very hard. However, it was very chewy. Li Shimin poured a bowl of wine for Zhang Feng and took a big gulp before saying, "Even though I've eaten all kinds of delicacies, your food is still the best. By the way, brother Zhang Feng, why don't I call the residence's chef over and you can teach him, get lost?" Zhang Feng was anxious. "I knew that you, Lao Li, don't have good intentions. Let's not talk about how I tricked your son last time. Now you're thinking about my ability? This is my only source of income when I become an official in the future. Don't you dare snatch it from me. In the future, these things will be given to the emperor at critical moments to save his life. I won't give it to you." Zhang Feng shook his head like a rattledrum. What a joke. He would not give this stuff to ordinary people. If this stuff were to spread, with the brains of these people in this era, he was sure that this stuff would be available all over the Tang dynasty in less than a year. Wouldn't he suffer a loss then? How much money would it cost? By then, he would marry dozens of wives and have a bunch of children. What would he use to support them? With that little salary, it would not even be enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Li Shimin was a little speechless. Didn't I just say it? Chapter 294. You can't even talk about it. You're always thinking about what I have. You're really guarding against fire, theft, and brothers. If you want to eat it, then come. When the time comes, I'll exchange this thing for benefits from the emperor. I guarantee that you'll be the first to pass it on. I'll also let you, Lao Li, have a family craft. Li Shimin was amused when he heard this. So, what you said before can't be passed down? That thing can be passed down, but sooner or later, those secrets will be learned by others. But this ingredient of mine has a secret recipe. As long as you keep the secret recipe, I guarantee that in the future, your Li family will definitely rely on this thing to be immortalized for generations. Really? Li Shimin was also interested. Zhang Feng glanced at Li Shimin, who was holding 2 pieces of tiger jerky and chewing it. You'll know when you see it. Okay, let's not talk about this for now. This is good stuff. When the time comes, we'll be brothers. If I eat a mouthful of meat, you won't miss a mouthful of soup, Lao Li. What are you afraid of? Isn't your business doing well now? Just that cooperative and the salt-making technique is enough for you to earn money that you won't be able to spend in 8 lifetimes. Zhang Feng glanced at Li Shimin with disdain. He was minding his own business as he tore the jerky. It would have been better if he didn't hear this. Once he heard this, Li Shimin put down his wine bowl and sighed. Brother, you don't know. This time, Guanlong is coming aggressively. Many of my businesses have been affected. Especially Long Yu, he can't advance, retreat, and retreat. What do you think I should do? It would have been better if he didn't talk about business. Once he talked about business, Li Shimin was full of complaints. As he spoke, there were faint signs that he was about to cry. Seeing this, Zhang Feng felt a headache. Hey! Isn't it just this trivial matter? Don't worry. Let me tell you, this Guanlong group is a grasshopper after autumn. It won't be able to jump around for more than a few days. At this point, Zhang Feng glanced at the door mysteriously. Then, under Li Shimin's puzzled gaze, he said in a low voice, to tell you the truth, they're finished. Li Shimin was stunned when he heard that. Almost finished? How come I didn't know about it? My head is about to explode because of Guanlong. Yet you're saying that he's done for. Are you kidding me? That was the Guanlong group. The 8 great clans, which had been operating for over 100 years, were about to be destroyed. Brother Zhang Feng, please don't use this matter to brush me off. Don't worry, I understand this matter. Li Shimin shook his head in distress. Hey! You still don't believe me? Zhang Feng simply rolled up his sleeves and hooked Li Shimin's neck. He pointed at his own nose and said, So, you think that I, Zhang Feng, am joking? Li Shimin didn't say anything. He only looked at Zhang Feng's indifferent expression and smiled disdainfully. Zhang Feng wasn't willing. Come. Let me help you. Although I, Zhang Feng, am usually not very serious, but look at that matter of mine. Does it look like a joke? Li Shimin heard this and frowned slightly. It seemed like it really was. Every time Zhang Feng said something, it would come true. And every time he didn't care, reality would give him a hard slap in the face. This made Li Shimin puzzled. He hurriedly asked, Brother Zhang Feng, you said that Guanlong is finished. Where did this come from? Don't keep me in suspense. Okay. Don't be anxious. How can I not be anxious? Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's neck and said, This time, Guanlong's forces were suppressed by the emperor. They will definitely take action. You only need to shrink all the industries under your hands. If that's not possible, sell all the industries suppressed by Guanlong's forces. Then, concentrate all the major industries near the waterways. Li Shimin was surprised. Brother Zhang Feng, what do you mean? Zhang Feng said faintly, because the Guanlong forces are about to be finished. Li Shimin was speechless. It was this sentence again. This was the second time Zhang Feng said this sentence today. But Li Shimin saw from all the information, documents, and everything else that Guanlong's forces were preparing for a big action. How could a force that had existed for more than 100 years be so easy to deal with? It's almost finished. I think you're saying that I'm almost finished. But Li Shimin also knew Zhang Feng's ability. He couldn't help but ask, Brother Zhang Feng, don't beat around the bush. Just say it directly. This is making me anxious. Li Shimin poured a bowl of wine for Zhang Feng and smiled bitterly. Seeing Li Shimin like this, Zhang Feng leisurely drank a mouthful of wine and said slowly, Lao Li, think about it. I told you about the plan to deal with Tubo. Think about it first, then think about what I'm saying now. While speaking, Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's neck and said, Think about it carefully. Li Shimin's face suddenly changed. He remembered that Zhang Feng had also told him about the plan to deal with Tubo and the Turks in the tavern. Could it be that this time, Brother Zhang Feng also wanted to use this method to deal with Guanlong's forces? But how could a cooperative fight against Guanlong? Li Shimin couldn't help but ask hurriedly, Brother Zhang Feng, if you have something to say, just say it. You are making me anxious. Chapter 295. Li Shimin was really anxious. This time, he came to the pub to drown his sorrows. Although the last matter was resolved in a domineering manner, the Guanlong forces in the court made Li Shimin want to kill people every day when he went to court. Moreover, he had to face all kinds of impeachment memorials every day. He couldn't stand it anymore. From the information he just received, the Guanlong forces seemed to be making a big move this time, but he didn't know what it was. This made Li Shimin anxious. So, he hurried to the pub. He just happened to encounter the matter of Zhang Feng and the child, which made Li Shimin tell him his plan to eliminate the court. That is, he wanted Zhang Feng to help him get some pillars. Although it was impossible to learn many skills in a year, it was enough for him to have one of Zhang Feng's skills. At the very least, after he eliminated the court, there would be no vacancy in the court. If it weren't for Zhang Feng talking about the industry at the end, he would have forgotten the purpose of this visit. However, Zhang Feng said that Guanlong was about to be finished. Moreover, he even mentioned the matter of Tubo. This made Li Shimin shocked. The plan to deal with Tubo and other countries last time was premeditated from the beginning. And to deal with those uncivilized places, it was okay, but Guanlong was different. Seeing Li Shimin anxious, Zhang Feng said faintly, "Brother, you are still anxious. You didn't think of the cooperative I set up before? You didn't think of the relationship between the salt-making technique and the plan to deal with Tubo and other countries? You didn't think of the 8 rivers transportation I asked you to set up before? What is it?" Buzz. Li Shimin's head exploded in an instant. Are you saying that the 8 rivers transportation broke through the blockade of the Guanlong trade route last time, was the beginning of the plan? I can understand this, but what is the salt-making technique and the cooperative you mentioned? The art of making salt is easy to say, but this cooperative, anyone can learn it. When the time comes, Guanlong will not use it? Li Shimin threw out 3 questions. Zhang Feng smiled. He waved his hand to calm Li Shimin down. Then he said slowly, "Lao Li. You're thinking too much. Let me tell you about this 8 water transportation. You should know about the Silk Road, right? And now, all the trade routes are built on the Silk Road. I really wonder why you didn't even think of this until now. What kind of business is this? I don't believe that you, Lao Li, don't know about the Silk Road." Well, I was too excited and forgot about it. Li Shimin hurriedly laughed it off. The Silk Road you're talking about is... Zhang Feng saw that Li Shimin still didn't understand. He sighed and said, "Lao Li, I wonder how you do business. I've already pointed out the waterways to you, and you still don't understand?" He had actually forgotten about all of this. Li Shimin's face was burning. Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin, who was lost in thought, and did not say anything. He knew that Li Shimin was now enlightened. After all, these things were things that even the ancestors knew. It was understandable that a small businessman like Lao Li did not remember. However, the emperor must also be preparing for this at this time. In this matter, he only played the role of adding fuel to the fire. The one who really made this matter have a real effect was the emperor. He believed that the emperor must have thought of this point. It was only a matter of time. After all, even if the emperor did not remember, he still had someone by his side, Wei Zheng. He also had Zhangsun Wuji, who was smarter than a monkey. He even had Feng Mao and Du Duan. How could Li Shimin not know these things? Now that he had made the fuse of the 8 rivers, and Li Shimin did not think of it, then there must be someone in the imperial court who knew about it. The opening of Hainan Airlines was also the best solution that Zhang Feng came up with to deal with Guanlong. You, Guanlong, are awesome. You occupied a mountain and became a king. You monopolized the Silk Road of the Tang dynasty. You are awesome. However, Lao Tzu started his business from the waterways. You can't do anything to me, right? Moreover, the emperor has the most awesome 5-tooth warship of this era. He also has Lao Tzu's iron sheet boat. If you have the ability, you can go too. Lao Tzu's iron sheet boat can't kill you. In fact, he was doing this to save his own life. After all, he had caused too many things in the past. Moreover, he was in Chang'an city where crooks mixed in with honest folk. Although his appearance was inconspicuous now, as long as Guanlong wanted to find out the manufacturing method of the official salt and his information, it would be as simple as crushing an ant. Even if he did not make a move now, when he went to the imperial court, Guanlong would make a move on him. This was why Zhang Feng was not willing to enter the imperial court in the beginning. Instead, he had to wait for that broken system to be activated. He could not afford to offend those people. Moreover, it was in this era where human life was cheaper than a dog's. Therefore, he needed to borrow some people's hands to help him get rid of the obstacles before he entered the imperial court. It was also at this time that Li Shimin took a deep breath. Without saying anything, he stood up excitedly and bowed. Brother Zhang Feng, you are the living Zhuge. Lao Li, I admire you. Don't. Zhang Feng waved his hand. Zhuge, I said that he is my disciple. Moreover, this is something that I must do. Think about it, with my talent, once I enter the imperial court, I will definitely be a thorn in the eyes of the 5 clans and 7 Wang, as well as Guanlong. A small shrimp like me, if I don't plan ahead, then when the time comes, before I even enter that place, there will only be a cup of yellow soil left. But, Li Shimin asked doubtfully, although you said so, but the matter of the cooperative, isn't it also helping Guanlong's arrogance? This is something that I have never understood. Sigh. Lao Li, you don't understand. This is a big gift from me, Zhang Feng, to them. The moment I enter the imperial court, Lao Tzu will make them spit out everything, including interest. I have a big move waiting for them. You can rest assured and do your business. Chapter 297. What big move? Li Shimin was shocked. He had always wondered why Zhang Feng was so against Guanlong. But now he understood. And he also understood why Zhang Feng was not in a hurry to enter the imperial court. It was not that he did not want to go, but he was worried. He also deeply hated Guanlong, but he could not find an opportunity to kill him. He had doubts in his heart. Now he finally understood why Zhang Feng was so determined to kill Guanlong. This guy was a coward. If Guanlong was not killed, he did not plan to enter the imperial court. Li Shimin couldn't help but recall what Zhang Feng had said about the cooperative, as well as what he had said about preparing a big move. Brother Zhang Feng, you said you planned to kill Guanlong before entering the imperial court. Are you going to rely on this sea trade? Zhang Feng shook his head. Obviously, he was talking too much. I'll cook it for you. What about this matter? In fact, I've been planning since the beginning of the salt-making technique. But this Jinla was just an accident. Even if he did not meet me, he would have established diplomatic relations with the Tang dynasty. It's just that I made a lot of money for you and me. But have you ever thought about how you will establish trade routes without goods? Li Shimin stroked the beard on his chin and nodded slightly. You're right, but you want to talk about the cooperative, right? Do you think Guanlong's people will take advantage of it? Yes. Li Shimin nodded with a solemn face. With Guanlong's financial resources and power, it's inevitable that they will not do this. If I do this, won't he be accumulating wealth? Instead, it will help them this time. Zhang Feng smiled. Pointing at himself, he said with a smile, Lao Li, who do you think made this thing? You. That's right. This is made by Lao Tzu. Do you think I, Zhang Feng, will lose out? Li Shimin pursed his lips. It would be great if you could suffer a loss. That's it. Our Zhang Feng is not only here with our brothers, but also here in my neighborhood. This is all because Lao Tzu is willing. So, Guanlong? Who does he think he is? Right? I'll let him take advantage of me, right? Zhang Feng said it very arrogantly, but Li Shimin had to nod and admit it. Zhang Feng was really good to the people he trusted. But, outsiders? Goodbye. Take his tavern for example. Although he was lazy, he could also do a good job in the pub, but he just wouldn't do it. Such delicious food, he would rather let the slaves eat it than use it to make money. Why? Just because of his words, you can't buy my willingness with money. Sometimes, Li Shimin really admired Zhang Feng. But this time, he couldn't understand Zhang Feng. He asked, then why did you make such a big fuss about this cooperative? You don't understand, right? Zhang Feng smiled slyly. Old Li, take a guess. Who's the one running this cooperative in the end? The Emperor. That's right. There are even some things that you can't buy anywhere else. Tell me, are you angry? So, you've been plotting since then? That is to say, the last time we came to eat barbecue, you also deliberately added salt? That Dao doesn't exist. Zhang Feng waved his hand. The last time, he really didn't do it on purpose. After all, that thing was also a big gift that he prepared to give to the emperor. Perhaps when he entered the imperial court as an official, he would present this thing. The emperor might be happy and even become sworn brothers with him. How could he be so stupid? Last time, if you didn't go, you might not know about this thing until now. If I don't even trust you and hide it from you, who else can I trust? Zhang Feng spread his hands. He expressed his innocence. Li Shimin was a little embarrassed. He had doubts about such a stupid question. How could he say it out loud? But since he had already said it, he didn't care anymore. Brother Zhang Feng, thank you for clearing my doubts. After talking to you today, Lao Li, I really feel like I'm reborn. Li Shimin was filled with endless emotions. Come, today, I'll toast you with your wine. Good. Zhang Feng didn't decline and drank a bowl of wine with Li Shimin. Speaking of which, your father's birthday is coming soon. If there's nothing else, why don't you tell me a time and I'll go over to congratulate him and resolve the conflict between the two of you? Li Shimin was shocked when he heard that. He hurriedly prevaricated. Well, isn't it because of Guanlong's matter? I've already arranged for my father to go to Longyu Road, so I'm not going to do it this year. Is that so? Zhang Feng didn't care when he heard that. I was thinking of going to your house to get acquainted with it, but now it seems that I can only wait for the next time. Alright, when I leave later, I'll bring those 10 jars of wine back. That's the congratulatory gift I prepared for your father. What do you think? I'm a good brother, right? Li Shimin's face turned red. Tears rolled in his eyes. He wanted to reveal his identity, but after thinking about it, he could only slap Zhang Feng's shoulder hard. Good brother, come. Let's drink this bowl of wine. Chapter 299. In the end, Li Shimin still left. Because tomorrow was his father's birthday, and he still had a lot of things to prepare. Today, it was precisely because he was overly worried about Guanlong that he had come here. But now, with Zhang Feng's reassurance, Li Shimin's courage had been boosted. Through the curtain, looking at the busy people in the imperial city, he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. Wait. Next year. He would be able to travel around Chang, and with Zhang Feng in the truest sense of the word. He might even be able to accompany Zhang Feng to the other side of the ocean. As long as Guanlong was eliminated, how far would it be? As long as the cooperatives, banks, and Hainan Airlines were opened, what did Li Shimin have to fear? At this time, the cooperation with Tubo had officially begun. Batch after batch of food swarmed in. Li Shimin also knew that on tomorrow's birthday, Shili's youngest son, the little Khan, would definitely use this as an excuse. But he had already made a trap, and it would firmly be on the neck of the Tujue. Food was fine. Lao Tzu didn't want money, but Lao Tzu wanted your cattle and sheep. When your cattle and sheep were gone, there would naturally be people who were hungry and desperate, and they would personally give their warhorses to the Tang dynasty in exchange for food. Because who would be afraid of the people on the back of the horse without a warhorse? This was the golden age of the Tang dynasty. Li Shimin was very excited. He was so excited that his face was red. Even when he was in the imperial study, he didn't notice it. It wasn't until Zhang Xuan's call that he woke up. Your Majesty, what happened to you? Li Shimin took a deep breath, and after dismissing his servants, he excitedly pulled Zhang Xuan's hand and said, Guanyin maid, do you believe in God? Zhang Sun rolled her eyes at Li Shimin. Didn't you say you didn't believe in God? What did you talk about with Zhang Feng and brother today? Look at how excited you are. Ha ha ha. I suspect that brother Zhang Feng is either a god or the Ziwei star that Mr. Yuan mentioned. You can see the current situation, but guess what? Zhang Feng had actually thought of everything from the very beginning, just like how he dealt with Tubo. Including what Guan Long is thinking right now, we even suspect that brother Zhang Feng knows everything. Zhang Sun Wugo was stunned. However, he still sighed. Smelling the smell of alcohol on Li Shimon's body, he knew that the emperor must be drunk. Otherwise, how could he lose his composure and say such words? However, she still gently poured a cup of tea for Li Shimon and said, I don't believe that brother Zhang Feng is a god. Why don't you tell me what brother Zhang Feng said? This concubine is also a little curious about this person. Why are all of you so fascinated by a small name in the marketplace? Even Xian is crazy all day, talking about brother Zhang Feng, brother Zhang Feng. And looking at the big tiger that was given to Zhang Feng last time, everyone was even more confused. Sigh. We don't understand the lives of young people. As they spoke, everyone sat down again. On the other side, Zhang Feng had just laid down on the recliner and was about to go meet the Lord of Zhou. But at this moment, a loud noise came from outside the door, causing him to sit up involuntarily. Bang! Feng Zi. We're here to eat the rich. Come out and receive the guests. What the F***? Lao Tzu's door. Bastard, don't be so arrogant. Pay for Lao Tzu's door first. Zhang Feng went crazy. Looking at the door that was kicked to pieces by Qing Chimo, his eyes turned red. What the F***? Did he grow up eating stones? One kick. Lao Tzu's door. Zhang Feng's heart ached. His head hurt. His whole body hurt. Hee, that. I used a little too much force. But don't worry, I'll change it for you. I'll change it to a Phoebe Jinan door. Qing Chimo saw Zhang Feng's face as black as the bottom of a pot and knew that he was in trouble. But he was excited. Today, his father and the others knew that Zhang Feng was not used to the common goods on the street and was sure that he would come back to hide. So he asked the three of them to come and accompany Zhang Feng, lest the magistrate court came to settle the score with him. At this moment, the few of them were excited. They had wanted to look for Zhang Feng for a long time. Zhang Feng once said that heavy cavalry, light cavalry, and what was learning. How could the three of them resist? If it weren't for the recent major incident in Chang and City and their father's order for everyone to help, they would have come long ago. Originally, Wei Shuyu wanted to come too. But today, he had to protect the emperor, so he could only tearfully ask the three of them to come and ask when they could learn that thing. Zhang Sun Chong was quite tactful. Seeing that Zhang Feng was still angry, he hurriedly took out a book from his chest and said with a sneaky smile, Brother Feng, come, let me show you a good treasure. You'll know why Iron Bull is so excited. That animal has been holding back for a long time. Zhang Feng was suspicious. But seeing that even Du Dabing was looking at it from the corner of his eyes, he couldn't help but be interested. What is it? Come on. Sit and watch. Brother, I guarantee that you'll like it when you see it, hee. Damn. Too wretched. This must be, Zhang Feng smiled disdainfully. Just as he was about to say that he was a gentleman and not that kind of person, he flipped open the first page of the thread-bound red book without any cover. His eyeballs almost popped out. What the F***, this is. Jean Ping Mei? You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.